Chapter 1059. The yellow-haired woman shook her head. It's not what you think. I came from the Great Change Realm, so I can go back. Saying that, the yellow-haired woman took out a jade card and showed it to Ning Cheng. This is my identity jade card. Ning Cheng suddenly understood, no wonder. I thought that anyone could find them to transfer to the Grand Change Realm. If that's the case, then the Grand Change Realm would be too easy to enter. The yellow-haired woman looked at the door of the merchant house that she had just been kicked out of. She hesitated for a moment before whispering, actually, people who are not from the Great Change Realm have their own ways to enter the Great Change Realm. But it's very troublesome, and the amount of divine crystals required is a huge number. Ning Cheng nodded. Sure enough, if there was a policy, there would always be a countermeasure. It was the same even in the Grand Change Realm, the largest of the 5 grand realms. How many divine crystals do you need to pay? Let me see if I have it. Ning Cheng asked with a smile. The yellow-haired woman said dejectedly, I have to pay 50 million divine crystals to return to the Great Change Realm. So many? Ning Cheng exclaimed in surprise. Even he found it difficult to carry so many spirit crystals. That's too many god crystals. I can't help you. Even if you find Ning Cheng, he wouldn't be able to come up with so many spirit crystals to help you. Ning Cheng spoke with a helpless tone. The yellow-haired woman understood that Ning Cheng couldn't help her. Not to mention that the other party couldn't come up with so many spirit crystals, even if he could, who would willingly take out 50 million spirit crystals to help a stranger. Upon seeing the yellow-haired woman's helpless look, Ning Cheng hesitated for a moment before saying, actually, there are many void wanderers in the 5 realms Void City. They adventure and cultivate in the void all year round. This way, not only can I improve my cultivation, but I can also accumulate some divine crystals. I know, but I'm worried about my young Mississippi. I don't know how she is right now. I really can't cultivate here with peace of mind. I came to the 5 realms Void City to inquire about my big brother. However, I've been here for 10,000 years and I haven't heard anything about him. The yellow-haired woman's tone was mournful. What's your big brother's name? Ning Cheng asked. He suddenly remembered that he knew Kong Lianbua, and also knew Lu Dongsa. Maybe he could help her find her big brother. The yellow-haired woman shook her head and didn't say anything. Ning Cheng saw that the yellow-haired woman did not want to say anything, and could only say, then I wish you good luck, I'll be leaving now. You are a good person. You are as kind as my big brother and my young miss. I will tell you my big brother's name, but you must not tell it to anyone else. The yellow-haired woman suddenly spoke up when Ning Cheng was about to leave. Ning Cheng smiled, and was just about to say that he would definitely have to tell others to help her find her big brother, when this yellow-haired woman spoke up, my big brother's name is Pan Qian. Alas, so many years have passed, even if I say it out loud, it would not matter much. What did you say, Pan Qian? Ning Cheng was surprised in his heart, as he quickly repeated the words. Could it be that the Pan Qian the yellow-haired woman was talking about was the giant he had saved? That was also possible. The only way out of the Great Change Realm was to come to the 5 realms Void City. The yellow-haired woman had come out of the Great Change Realm and could not advance or retreat in the 5 realms Void City. She could only stay here. Hearing Ning Cheng's surprised voice, the yellow-haired woman's face immediately changed, but she soon returned to normal. After being trapped in the 5 realms Void City for 10,000 years, she had long lost all hope. What did it matter whether he said Pan Qian's name or not? Come with me. Ning Cheng did not ask any more questions and directly pulled the yellow-haired woman to a secluded place. Placing a restriction on it, he asked with a dignified tone, is your family's little miss called she/her? Or is your name she/her? The yellow-haired woman stared at Ning Cheng with wide eyes and took 2 steps back vigilantly. Do you know my family's little miss and big brother Pan Qian? Sure enough, Ning Cheng felt slightly relieved. I don't know she/her, but I know Pan Qian. Pan Qian is my friend, and we have gone through trials and tribulations together. Ning Cheng did not speak nonsense. Pan Qian had saved him, so he had returned to save Pan Qian. The two of them had dealt with the altar of forefathers' library together. Because of this, the two had forged a deep friendship. Are you a friend of Big Brother Pan Qian? Where is Big Brother Pan Qian? The yellow-haired woman's tone turned joyful and excited. She had actually heard news about Pan Qian. After so many years in the Void City, this was the first time she had heard news about Pan Qian. Ning Qing did not say where Pan Qian was. Instead, he stared at the yellow-haired woman and asked, "Is your family's little Miss she her?" The yellow-haired woman said eagerly, "Yes, my family's little miss is she her. My name is Qian." Ning Qing frowned and said, "I heard from Pan Qian that she died a long time ago. Why did you say that you were worried about your family's little miss and didn't want to stay in the Void City of the Five Realms?" Qian felt relieved when she heard Ning Cheng's words. "Big brother, you really are my big brother Pan Qian's friend. It's a long story. Let's go to the rest stop and find a place to talk about it." "Okay, let's go to the rest stop where I live and talk about it in detail. Also, did that merchant house kick you out just now because you didn't have enough spirit crystals?" If he had not known Qian's identity, Ning Cheng would not have made such an unnecessary move. Qian was Pan Qian's sister. Regardless of whether they were related or not, he had to take care of this matter. If they didn't have enough spirit crystals, they could just not give her a teleportation spot. Why did they kick her out? Looking at Qian, she did not seem like someone who would take the initiative to cause trouble. "No." Qian hesitated. "Big brother, we can't afford to provoke them. That merchant house is very powerful. Just tell me the reason." Ning Cheng waved his hand. Not fighting back wasn't Ning Cheng's character. Qian gave an sound and said, "Because I couldn't collect 50 million spirit crystals, they said that I had to pay 10 million spirit crystals as a mortgage first. This mortgage was the prepayment for the teleportation spot. I had no choice but to pay 10 million spirit crystals. It took me many years to collect more than 10 million spirit crystals. So I went to them and asked them to give me a discount. They asked me to give them the spirit crystals I had on me, and then I continued to collect more spirit crystals. However, I didn't give them the spirit crystals. I just said that I wanted to take back my original 10 million spirit crystals and that I planned to find someone else to help me. They said that if I didn't give back the spirit crystals, they would kick me out. I didn't dare to resist. Once I resisted, not only would I lose the 10 million spirit crystals, but I would also have to pay back the spirit crystals I had on me." Ning Qing sneered. Sure enough, it was a scam. "Don't worry, I'll go with you this time." After Ning Qing finished, he turned around and walked towards the shop again. "Big brother, you can't go." Qian anxiously called out to Ning Cheng. If Ning Cheng went like this, the two of them would be finished. Ning Cheng smiled, "Don't worry, just come with me. By the way, did they give you any proof when you mortgaged it?" Qian shook her head and said, "No, but I secretly recorded the crystal ball." Ning Cheng spoke with satisfaction, "Not bad, give me the crystal ball." Although Qian was weak and timid, she wasn't a fool. She had wandered here alone for many years, so her experience wasn't too bad. Because of this, she recorded it with the crystal ball. "What are you doing here again? Did you collect all the spirit crystals?" As soon as Ning Cheng and Qian walked into the merchant house, a Tao-molding divine emperor sitting there drinking spirit tea frowned and said. Opposite this Tao-molding divine emperor was another Tao-molding divine emperor. When Ning Cheng and Qian came in, he didn't even raise his head. He still elegantly picked up the jade cup in front of him and took a sip of spirit tea. "Not yet," Qian just said 2 words when the Tao-molding divine emperor roared, "If not, then what are you doing here? Piss off, don't make me kick you out again." Ning Cheng stopped Qian who wanted to say something and said calmly, "We haven't collected all the spirit crystals yet. We know it's very hard to collect them, so we don't plan to teleport here. We're going to take back the 10 million spirit crystals we originally mortgaged. You're quite bold, daring to come here and ask for spirit crystals. Do you think you're great just because you're strong? Piss off. The Tao Molding Divine Emperor didn't even put Ning Cheng, a Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor, in his eyes. However, before he could finish his sentence, he felt a terrifying pressure crashing down on him. Under this kind of pressure, he even found it difficult to breathe. The next moment, he heard two crisp, pa-pa, sounds. Blood mist followed by more than 10 teeth flew out. The Tao Molding Divine Emperor's cheeks were smashed into bones. Bang! Another kick landed on his chest. The Tao Molding Divine Emperor felt his bones shatter inch by inch. He flew out of the merchant building. With a crack, the Tao Molding Divine Emperor smashed through a huge tree on the opposite side of the street. He became paralyzed and stared at Ning Cheng in horror. He was a mid-stage Tao sculpting expert, but he didn't even have the ability to resist just now. He wanted to take out a pill to heal, but he felt his injuries couldn't be healed by pills. His broken bones contained traces of Taoist rhyme aura, and there was no way he could recover. You dare to attack here? The other Tao molding late stage couldn't sit still anymore. He stood up and stared at Ning Cheng in shock and fear. He said this, but his mind was on guard against Ning Cheng. He was afraid that Ning Cheng would suddenly attack him again. You should be glad that you were not the one who kicked that person a moment ago. Otherwise, I would have beaten you to the point that even your parents would not be able to recognize you. Ning Cheng lifted his foot and smashed the 2 cups of spiritual tea on the table in front of him, as he spoke in a thick voice. His spirit sense had already scanned that it was a Tao Actualization Divine Emperor, so he didn't ask for help. A Tao Actualization Divine Emperor couldn't do anything to him. The Tao Actualization Divine Emperor walked to the door of the merchant building and picked up the paralyzed Tao Molding Middle Stage Cultivator before walking in. He glanced at Ning Cheng and Qianqian before putting down the Tao Molding Divine Emperor and said coldly, "My Infinite Circles Commerce Hall isn't a big commerce hall, but it's not a place anyone can bully. If you can't give my Infinite Circles Commerce Hall a satisfactory answer, you won't be able to walk out." Chapter 1060. Infinite Circle Commerce Hall was really big. My friend paid 10 million crystals here. Now, she can't get 50 million, so she can only take back the crystals and not teleport to the Great Change Realm for now. But this person not only didn't return the crystals but also kicked my friend out. Therefore, I returned the kicks that he had given me back. Ning Cheng spoke in a calm manner. The Tao Actualization Divine Emperor frowned and said heavily, "Do you have proof?" Infinite Circle Commerce Hall wasn't lenient towards solo cultivators who wanted God crystals. Usually, they wouldn't give out proof either. The Tao Actualization Divine Emperor asked this because he wanted to know if Ning Cheng and Qianqian had proof that they paid 10 million God crystals. If they didn't have proof, then they wouldn't be able to get it back. Ning Cheng made a copy of Qianqian's crystal ball and threw it to the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor. "The proof is in this crystal ball." The Tao Actualization Divine Emperor grabbed the crystal ball and scanned his spirit sense in. He immediately saw the image of Qianqian paying the God crystals. He was very angry at who took the God crystals and let them carve the crystal ball. Infinite Circle Commerce Hall was a big business. A solo cultivator paying 10 million God crystals would be used by their subordinates as extra income. Qianqian didn't have 50 million God crystals. Even if she did, Qianqian wouldn't be able to get a teleportation spot with 50 million. Unless she had a certain background, she wouldn't be able to take out 50 million God crystals at once. The thing in the crystal ball might be fake. I need to check it. The quality of the crystal ball isn't good either. I just scanned it with my spirit sense and it cracked. As he spoke, the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor threw the crystal ball to Ning Cheng. Before Ning Cheng could grab the crystal ball, it turned to dust. Ning Cheng didn't mind and turned to Qianqian, "In that case, we'll come back next time." It wasn't that he was afraid of this Tao Actualization Divine Emperor, but he wanted to be reasonable first. Ning Cheng was almost certain that this Tao Actualization Divine Emperor wouldn't let him leave easily. As soon as Ning Cheng said this, the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor sneered, "You beat someone in my merchant tower and you're going to leave? In fact, it was your merchant house who made the first move. If it wasn't for the Infinite Circles Commerce Hall's people who made the first move against my friend Qianqian, I wouldn't have come here to make a move against her. Could it be that you can hit us, but we can't fight back? Let's take a step back for now and not take the spirit crystals for the time being. Isn't that enough? Ning Qing cupped his fists and continued to dig holes. Since this matter had gotten out of hand, he needed to stand on the side of reason first. The other party looked down on him and Qianqian. This kind of pit was the easiest to dig. Everyone could see the cowardice in Ning Cheng's tone. The Tao Actualization Divine Emperor said coldly, "It doesn't matter if what you said was fake or the truth. Since you beat someone in my Infinite Circles Commerce Hall, don't even think about leaving. Hand over the ring, cripple your own cultivation, and scram." "Oh, does that mean that your Myriad Realms business house should beat people up?" Ning Qing asked with some anger. He actually wanted the other party to say that my Infinite Circles Commerce Hall deserved to beat you up. "What can you do to me?" But this Tao Actualization Divine Emperor was very cunning. Despite guessing that Ning Qing had no background, he didn't say that. Instead, he argued, "I didn't see if my Infinite Circles Commerce Hall beat anyone up. However, I saw you heavily injure someone from my Infinite Circles Commerce Hall. Let's go." Ning Qing couldn't dig anymore, so he turned and left. How could the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor let Ning Qing go? He raised his hand and punched towards Ning Qing. Ning Qing opened his hand and the void cold ray spear appeared in his hand. At the same time, he stabbed out with it. Streaks of ice-cold spear traces suddenly distorted the entire void, and the space in this place turned illusory. With an explosion, the spear runes of the void cold ray spear turned corporeal and clashed with the other party's punch. Powerful Tao runes spread out and God essence kept on exploding in the twisted space. Crash! With just one attack, the merchant house was turned into ruins. Under Ning Cheng's deliberate action, a powerful killing intent and spatial fluctuations spread out. In just an instant, most people in the Five Realms Void Marketplace knew that someone had started a fight in the Five Realms Void Marketplace. This Tao Actualization Divine Emperor saw the merchant house explode. He was shocked and furious. He didn't expect Ning Cheng to be this bold. He dared to use his Tao runes and killing intent in the Five Realms Void Marketplace. What shocked him even more was that Ning Cheng was only a Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor, but his cultivation level wasn't any weaker than him. He didn't use his full power, but who knew if Ning Cheng used his full power? Ning Cheng was overjoyed. The void cold ray spear was indeed powerful. He only used a small part of it and it actually released such power. Ning Cheng was certain that he didn't even need to use the 5-color star splitter arrow to kill this Tao Actualization Divine Emperor. He just needed this void cold ray spear. He didn't even need to use 7 Bridges Divine Art. Ning Cheng shook the void cold ray spear and spear runes automatically formed. "You're courting death. You dare to do this in the merchant house of the Five Realms Void Marketplace." This Tao Actualization Divine Emperor's face turned livid. If he knew that Ning Cheng was this bold and powerful, he wouldn't have attacked Ning Cheng in the merchant house. As long as Ning Cheng was in the Five Realms Void Marketplace, he had 10,000 ways to kill Ning Cheng. There was no need to attack him directly. "You still don't know who's courting death? Eat my spear again." Ning Cheng shot out another spear. This spear was completely different from the previous spear. If the previous spear was just a space spirit art and spear runes killing intent, then this spear was Ning Cheng's time law spirit art. Ever since he cultivated in the tree ring for a few years, Ning Cheng's understanding of time law had deepened. He could have used sunset's dusk to stop time in an instant. After comprehending the time Tao runes in the tree ring, Ning Cheng's time law spirit art completely stopped time. This was the true control of heaven and earth law. Even if it was just for an instant, it could take the opponent's life. The cold void light spear transformed into a cold shadow. This cold shadow looked ordinary, but it pierced out just like that. After this cold shadow pierced out, time seemed to have stopped. Within the range of the cold ray spear's Tao runes, the entire space seemed to have frozen. This Tao actualization divine emperor only faced this frozen world. In this frozen world, he could feel the terrifying killing intent in the world. At this moment, he could no longer hold back the fear in his heart. His entire god essence and spirit sense started to go berserk. When the spear of death arrived at his forehead, he barely dodged it by a sliver. Splurge. Blood splashed out. The void cold ray spear brushed past this Tao actualization divine emperor's forehead and blasted a gash in his head. Luckily, this Tao actualization divine emperor burned his god essence like crazy before Ning Cheng could use this spear. He broke free from the frozen time law and avoided the fate of his forehead being blasted apart. The world returned to normal. This Tao actualization divine emperor also retreated 100 meters and stared at Ning Cheng. He even forgot to heal himself. A Tao nourishment divine emperor used time law to affect him and almost killed him. Just how terrifying was this Tao nourishment divine emperor? Ning Cheng sighed in pity. If his god essence was stronger, even if he was at Tao nourishment middle stage, this spear would have killed him. However, Ning Cheng didn't let it go. He stepped forward and the void cold ray spear turned into endless spear runes. Killing intent spread out. This Tao actualization divine emperor quickly took out his magic artifact and felt a sliver of coldness in his heart. Stop. A terrifying pressure suddenly descended, accompanied by a powerful backlash. Ning Cheng felt as if his 5 viscera and 6 bowels were about to be torn apart. He quickly put away the void cold light spear, and frantically retreated. After this terrifying pressure, a gray figure appeared not far from the opposite side of Ning Cheng. Even though he didn't attack Ning Cheng, that aura that made Ning Cheng feel like he couldn't even breathe still came crashing over. This was definitely a Tao Essence Divine Emperor. Just when Ning Cheng wanted to find someone to help, the pressure around him lessened. When Ning Cheng saw Si Chen Chiu Tian and Lu Dongzi come over together, he felt relieved. Infinite Circles Commerce Hall's Zhong Shuguang greets Association Master Kong, Association Master Lu, Association Master Si Chen. The Divine Emperor who used his aura to suppress Ning Cheng quickly cupped his fists. He had just finished greeting when a few figures with powerful auras landed. Seeing these figures come over, Zhong Shuguang could only continue to greet them. At this moment, Ning Cheng discovered that Kong Lianbo had also come. Behind Kong Lianbo, there were several powerful figures. Sure enough, even a little thing that happened in the 5 realms Void City couldn't be hidden from these people. Ning Cheng also saw that the guy who used his aura to suppress him was indeed a Tao Essence Divine Emperor. He wore a gray cultivator robe and had a sinister look on his face. Lu Dongzi and Si Chen Chiu Tian didn't speak. Even though this place was called the 5 Realms Void City, strictly speaking, it was Kong Lianbo's territory. Kong Lianbo asked in a calm tone, "Tao friend Zhong, you're a Tao Essence expert of the Infinite Circles Commerce Hall. Why would you attack Ning Cheng, a Tao Nourishment Pill Saint?" Hearing Kong Lianbo call him a pill saint, Ning Cheng knew that Kong Lianbo was pressuring him. Ning Cheng, Tao Nourishment Pill Saint? Zhong Shuguang was dumbfounded. To be honest, he still didn't know the reason. However, since Ning Cheng attacked a Tao Transformation Divine Emperor of the Infinite Circles Commerce Hall, he naturally wouldn't let it go. Zhong Shuguang didn't need Kong Lianbo to explain. He quickly understood. Wasn't Ning Cheng the pill refiner who had won against Lu Dongzi during the pill refinement battle? Why would the Infinite Circles Commerce Hall fight with Ning Cheng? Qi Meng, what's going on? Zhong Shuguang stared at the Tao Transformation Divine Emperor injured by Ning Cheng with a gloomy expression. No matter how strong the Infinite Circles Commerce Hall was, it couldn't fight against so many Realm Pill Association Masters. He had heard that after Ning Cheng defeated Lu Dongzi, he performed very gracefully and won the friendship of many Pill Association Masters and Pill Saints. Did the Infinite Circles Commerce Hall not want to stay in the 5 Realms Void City anymore? Chapter 1061. How could Qi Meng care about healing at this time? He also understood Ning Cheng's origin. At this moment, he only had hatred in his heart. Since you're Ning Cheng, why didn't you just report your origin earlier? Who else in the Five Realms Void Marketplace is more famous than Ning Cheng? Chi Meng had wronged Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng never thought that he would be so famous. If he knew that signing up could solve the problem, he wouldn't have caused such a ruckus. This Dao friend came to my Infinite Circles Commerce Hall and said that we owed him 10 million God crystals. He couldn't produce any valid evidence and even injured a Dao molding divine emperor of my Infinite Circles Commerce Hall. Because of this, I fought with him. If Deacon Zhong hadn't arrived in time, I'm afraid I would have died. Chi Meng could only find a reason to stand his ground at this time. At this point, it was no longer a matter of who was stronger. When Chi Meng said this, neither Kong Lianbo nor Lu Dongzi could speak. If this was really the case, then they could at most help Ning Cheng keep his life. However, everyone here knew that things wouldn't be so simple. If Ning Cheng wasn't an idiot, he wouldn't be stupid enough to blackmail the Infinite Circles Commerce Hall. 10 million God crystals were a lot, but it wouldn't be enough for an alchemist like Ning Cheng to think about. Seeing everyone looking at him, Ning Cheng took out a crystal ball and threw it into the air. The image in the crystal ball was instantly seen by everyone, from Chi Meng entering the Myriad Realms business house, to Ning Cheng giving Chi Meng the crystal ball as evidence, to Chi Meng destroying the crystal ball, and the conversation between the two of them. Moreover, Ning Cheng took the initiative to retreat, but Chi Meng stopped him. He even asked Ning Cheng to hand over his storage ring and then abolish his cultivation. Asking a cultivator to hand over their storage ring and abolish their cultivation was an irreconcilable hatred. What's more, the reason why the two of them fought was because Chi Meng attacked first. From this crystal ball, Chi Meng could be said to be bullying people. Seeing that Ning Cheng even recorded the crystal ball, Chi Meng's face turned green. He finally understood why Ning Cheng acted so lowly before. It turned out that this person was digging a hole. Fortunately, he wasn't stupid enough to say that the Infinite Circles Commerce Hall deserved to beat him up. Otherwise, he would be dead for sure. Seeing the image in the crystal ball, Zhong Shuguang's expression also turned ugly. He cupped his fists towards Ning Cheng and said, "My Myriad Circles Commerce Hall is in the wrong in this matter. Whether we have evidence or not, my Myriad Circles Commerce Hall will pay for the 10 million spirit crystals." Ning Cheng didn't answer. Instead, he raised his hand and threw out another crystal ball. This crystal ball contained the image of Qianqian paying the spirit crystals as collateral. Without backing up the evidence, Ning Cheng was not stupid enough to hand over the evidence to his opponent. After the image in the crystal ball finished playing, Ning Cheng spoke up with a cold voice, "I'm not shameless enough to extort 10 million spirit crystals. The Myriad Circles Commerce Chamber of Commerce must be a big chamber of commerce, but it's hard to believe that they would do such a thing." Zhong Shuguang was equally angry in his heart, but this time he was not angry at Chi Meng, but rather at Ning Cheng. Unfortunately, with so many powerhouses here, he did not dare to do anything to Ning Cheng. "My Infinite Circles Commerce Hall will compensate you with 50 million divine crystals," Zhong Shuguang said with a cold tone. Saying that, he directly threw a ring towards Ning Cheng. After this incident, the reputation of the Infinite Circles Commerce Chamber had completely ruined. In the past, even if the Infinite Circles Commerce Chamber ran out of spirit crystals, no one dared to say it to Ning Cheng in front of the public. Ning Cheng grabbed the ring and grabbed 10 million spirit crystals from it before throwing the rest of the spirit crystals back to Zhong Shuguang along with the ring. "We only want our own spirit crystals. The rest of the spirit crystals aren't ours, and I don't care about them." Ning Cheng put the 10 million spirit crystals into a ring and handed it to the surprised Qianqian next to him. "These are your spirit crystals. You can keep them." Zhong Shuguang put away the ring, but his expression turned even uglier. Ning Cheng's words meant that no matter how many spirit crystals his Infinite Circles Commerce Chamber had, most of it was ill-gotten gains. Knowing that Ning Cheng deliberately wanted to drug the Infinite Circles Commerce Chamber, he couldn't refute it. "Since the matter has been resolved, I won't keep Pill Master Ning here." Zhong Shuguang put away his anger and spoke in an even colder tone. At this moment, Ning Cheng suddenly received Kong Lianbo's voice transmission. "The Infinite Circles Commerce Chamber trades all kinds of teleportation quotas. If Pill Master Ning's friend wants to go to the Grand Change Realm, you don't have to look for the Infinite Circle's Commerce Chamber. Just come with us to the Grand Change Realm in 3 days. Just as he was about to doze off, Kong Lianbo sent him a pillow. Ning Qing admired Kong Lianbo's subtle observation and judgment while quickly thanking him. As everyone dispersed, Ning Qing cupped his fists towards Lu Dongsa and said, I wanted to ask Association Master Lu a few questions, but I met my friend on the way. Lu Dongsa waved his hand, Dao friend Ning can come to me at any time. I've been discussing the Tao of Alchemy with Association Master Si Chen in my residence for the past few days, and I've gained a lot. Lu Dongsa's Tao of Alchemy was a few levels higher than Si Chen Qiu Tian's. Therefore, Lu Dongsa said this to give face to Si Chen Qiu Tian. As soon as Ning Qing returned to the rest stop with Qianqian bowed to Ning Qing, Big Brother Ning, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have gotten back those 10 million spirit crystals. After Ning Qing let Qianqian sit down, he spoke up directly, you don't have to say this. Pan Qian and I have a life-and-death friendship, so it's only right for me to help you. Can you tell me what happened to Shi-er? I heard from Pan Qian that Shi-er is dead. Qianqian's eyes turned red. Big Brother Pan Qian left the Grand Change Realm tens of thousands of years ago. Because Big Brother Pan Qian came from the giant clan, and his clan has the ancient giant bloodline. After the ancient bloodline leaked, countless people became envious and wanted to obtain the bloodline inheritance of the ancient giant clan. Big Brother Pan Qian is the one with the most complete bloodline inheritance among the ancient giant clan, and his bloodline is even purer. Ning Qing was no longer an ignorant person. No matter what kind of ancient bloodline it was a supreme treasure with extreme perception and cultivation capabilities. Whether it was cultivation, body forging, or spirit techniques, it was unparalleled. Pan Qian had the ancient giant bloodline, which made people envious. Later, in order to protect Big Brother Pan Qian, the giant clan left behind the purest bloodline inheritance and desperately fought against those invaders. In the end, the giant clan was too weak and was killed. Big Brother Pan Qian was saved by Big Sister Shi-er and has been following me and Big Sister Shi-er ever since. Until one day, Big Sister Shi-er said that she was going to reincarnate and asked Big Brother Pan Qian to leave the Grand Change Realm. When he cultivated to 10,000 feet, he would go back to the Grand Change Realm to see if he could find her reincarnated body. 10,000 feet. Ning Qing asked in surprise. When he saw Pan Qian was already 10 feet tall. To be honest, Ning Qing had never seen such a huge body before. What would he look like when he reached 10,000 feet in the future? Qianqian quickly explained, Big Brother Pan Qian's cultivation method awakened on his own. Cultivating to 10,000 feet doesn't mean that he's really 10,000 feet tall, but when he condensed the ancient giant's Tao charm, he would have a 10,000 feet real body. With a 10,000 feet real body, he wouldn't have to fear even Tao fusion powerhouses. When he didn't condense the ancient giant's Tao charm, Big Brother Pan Qian was only about 10 feet tall. Ning Qing thought back to when he saw Pan Qian was more than 10 feet tall. From this, Ning Qing understood that Pan Qian's strength had suffered too much damage and couldn't restrain his ancient giant's Tao charm. Pan Qian most likely didn't want to worry him, so he didn't say anything. After understanding this, Ning Qing started to worry about Pan Qian. In Pan Qian's current state, even if he returned to the Grand Change Realm, he would only be courting death. But Ning Qing believed that Pan Qian wouldn't be so stupid. After experiencing so many things, he should know what to do. Besides, Pan Qian had Shen Mengyan by his side. Shen Mengyan should be able to persuade Pan Qian. After sending Big Brother Pan Qian away, Big Sister Shi-er also sent me away. She said that she wanted to disperse her corporeal body in the place where she had cultivated and then reincarnate. She didn't want anyone to disturb her. I thought it was true because Big Sister Shi-er's cultivation method really did need reincarnation after reaching the extreme. Qianqian lowered her head and started sobbing. Ning Qing felt even more uneasy. He feared that Shi-er didn't want to reincarnate but lied to Qianqian and Pan Qian. Sure enough, Qianqian continued, After I left Big Sister I became a rogue cultivator. Until 10,000 years ago, I teamed up with a few people to train in the Grand Change Realm's underground abyss. When I accidentally entered the depths of the underground abyss, I vaguely saw Big Sister Er's figure. She was nailed to a thick blood pillar, suppressing something with her corporeal body. It's just that my strength was too limited. That figure was vague, and before it could get close, it was swept away by the violent underground wind. When I wanted to go back, I couldn't go back. I tried everything, but I couldn't see Big Sister again. I didn't know any powerhouses in the Grand Change Realm, and even if I did, I didn't dare to ask for help. I could only go to Big Brother Pan Qian. I didn't expect to be left in the Five Realms Void City, unable to advance or retreat. Over the years, my cultivation has regressed from the Dao Birth Realm to the Dao Sculpting Realm. Maybe after a while, I will no longer know what Dao is. Are you sure that's Ning Cheng's tone turned cold. Pan Qian's kindness was influenced by From this, it could be seen how kind was. How could he bear such a person being used as something purely to suppress dirt? Ning Cheng naturally understood the meaning of pure suppression. It was to use the purest body, essence, spirit, and soul to suppress things that couldn't see the light of day. When he saw An Yi's statue, it was also a kind of pure suppression. After seeing An Yi's statue, he took it away without hesitation. Qian nodded while crying. I'm sure I didn't see it wrong. Even if it was just a vague glance, I'm sure that it was Big Sister Since it's pure suppression, won't die so quickly. After we go to the Grand Change Realm, we can find a way. At that time, you can take me to the underground abyss. Ning Cheng quickly calmed down. The person who could nail to the underground abyss to suppress dirt definitely wasn't a simple person. This matter was different from the Myriad Realms Commerce Hall's matter. Even if he wanted to save people, he had to be careful. Chapter 1062. What kind of place is that underground abyss? Was everyone allowed to participate in the trial? Also, was suppressed in the underground abyss. Can you guess who did it? Ning Cheng asked again. The Great Change Realm was not only the first realm among the 5 great realms, but it was also the realm with the perfect laws of heaven and earth. One could imagine how many experts there were in the Great Change Realm. If he wanted to go to the underground abyss, he had to first figure out what kind of place the underground abyss was and who the experts he would be facing were. Qian sorted out her thoughts and said, I heard that the underground abyss appeared after the great changes of the 5 realms. Except for the Great Change Realm, the other 4 realms were fragmented due to the great changes and the laws were incomplete. It was also at that time that an underground abyss appeared in the westernmost corner of the Great Change Realm. In the beginning, the underground abyss was just a collection of demonic creatures formed from the filthy air underground. Some cultivators entered the underground abyss to train. These demonic creatures lived in filthy places, absorbing the filthy aura of heaven and earth, but they could produce a very pure demon crystal. This kind of demon crystal contained clear laws of heaven and earth. Some people could even make use of the heaven and earth law aura contained in these demonic crystals to comprehend a higher level of Dao aura and advance. Because of this, high-level devil crystals in the underground abyss are as precious as Dao fruits. No one cares about these underground monsters. Qian shook her head. In the beginning, some experts went in, but they soon realized that these demonic creatures posed no threat at all. In addition, the laws of heaven and earth of those demonic crystals were relatively low, so they couldn't attract those experts. Hence, they didn't bother with them anymore. But many years later, the demonic creatures underground became stronger and stronger. In the end, they even rushed out of the ground and almost destroyed a Dao court. Only under such circumstances did people enter the underground abyss to suppress the demonic creatures. I didn't know how they did it until I saw Sister Er's body nailed to the blood pillar in the underground abyss. Only then did I understand how bloody their suppression was. At this point, Qian could no longer hold back her tears. Ning Cheng couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He had not seen she and nailed to the blood pillar to suppress the filthy demonic creature, but he could imagine how miserable it must have been. He thought back to when he first saw Pan Qian. Pan Qian was also locked in the void and was constantly being sacrificed. He wondered if what had happened to Pan Qian and she had been done by the same person. After a while, Qian stopped grieving. After those powerful monsters are suppressed, only some low-level monsters are outside the blood pillar. The Great Change Realm allowed people to go down and find these demonic creatures to train. One reason was to increase the strength of the Great Change Realm, and the other was to suppress the eruption of the demonic creatures in the underground abyss. As for who suppressed Big Sister I don't know either. My guess is that it was either the Dao courts or the Dao sects. Back then, when the ancient giant clan was in trouble, Big Sister helped to save Big Brother Pan Qian. It's hard to guarantee that no one will know about it. Qian, what is the Dao court? A force? Ning Qing asked in confusion when he heard Qian mention the Dao court twice. Qian answered in detail, the Dao court is also a force. There are 5 major Dao courts and 3 major Dao sects in the Great Change Realm. Other than that, only the Elixir Association, the Weapon Association, and a place called the Seven God Palace can compare with these places. Knowing that Ning Qing didn't understand the Great Change Realm, Qian continued to explain, the 5 major Dao courts refer to the Cloud Light Dao Court, the Jade Clear Dao Court, the Glazed Pearl Dao Court, the Yaohua Dao Court, and the Great Mystery Dao Court. The 3 major Dao sects refer to the Covering Space Dao Sect, the Thousand Buddha Sacred Dao Sect, and the Formless Dao Sect. The Dao courts are actually similar to sects, but they are much bigger. Each Dao court has a Dao Lord, and the Dao Lord is supported by many powerful holy emperors. In addition, there is also an army of cultivators. Each Dao court is like a plane, and there are countless sects and clans under it. Ning Qing already understood what a Dao court was. To put it simply, it was equivalent to a country, similar to the Heavenly Court in ancient China. Since it was a force like the Heavenly Court, the 5 Dao courts must have fought in the Great Change Realm. Do the 5 Dao courts often fight each other? Ning Qing immediately asked. As long as there were fights, it would be easy to deal with them. What he feared the most was that they were united, which would make it difficult for him to act. Although he was asking Qian, Ning Qing had already confirmed that there were fights. Where there are people, there would be jianghu. This sentence was applicable everywhere. Yes, there are often fights between the 5 major Dao courts, as well as between the Dao courts and the Dao sects. On the contrary, the Pill Association and the Equipment Association rarely fight with these forces. On the contrary, most of the Dao courts and Dao sects are related. Qian nodded. After some conversation, Ning Qing learned a lot about the Great Change Realm from Qian. However, Qian's information was from 10,000 years ago. Qian didn't know if the current situation in the Great Change Realm was the same as 10,000 years ago. Ning Qing didn't ask Kong Lianbo. Kong Lianbo was the Deputy Association Master of the Great Change Pill Association and had a lot of entanglements with the Dao courts and Dao sects. Ning Qing didn't want to ask Kong Lianbo about this kind of thing. 3 days passed by in a flash. Kong Lianbo and several other association masters brought many alchemists participating in the 5 Realms Pill competition to the teleportation array to the Great Change Realm. The 5 Realms Pill competition has always been a grand event for our 5 realms. Although many Dao friends know that the teleportation array from the 5 Realms Void City to the Great Change Realm has very high spatial laws, I still have to remind you before the teleportation. That is, do not bring people through the teleportation array in your miniature world or true spirit world. Once such a thing happens, your miniature world or true spirit world will be crushed. The people inside won't be able to survive either. Before stepping onto the teleportation formation, Kong Lianbo cautioned them in detail. The alchemists here had seen the world. Therefore, no one was stupid enough to think that it would be easy to teleport people into the Great Change Realm from another world. Ning Qing didn't care about it. No matter how high the spatial laws of this teleportation array were, it couldn't be higher than the laws of his mysterious yellow world. Yan Ji was in his mysterious yellow bead and wouldn't be affected at all. As for Qianqian, Kong Lianbo agreed to send her through the teleportation array. Kong Lianbo, as the Deputy Association Master of the Great Change Realm Pill Association, had the ability to do so. There were more than 100 alchemists in front of the teleportation array, not including the alchemists from the Great Change Realm participating in the Five Realms Pill competition. Apart from the Great Essence Realm, which only had 6 participants, the Great Ultimate Realm, which had the fewest participants, had 12 participants. Both the Great Beginning Realm and the Great Beginning Realm had about 30 or 40 participants. As for the Great Change Realm, the number of alchemists participating in the Five Realms Pill competition had reached more than 100. After everyone boarded the teleportation array, Kong Lianbo took out 2 array flags and brought them out. The teleportation array suddenly gave off a roar, and the edges of the array flickered with black light. Before the teleportation array even started, Ning Qing felt a strong spatial collapse. As more and more black light gathered, the spatial collapse swept everyone away. Even Ning Qing felt dizzy after such a long-distance teleportation. When he opened his eyes, he knew that he had arrived at the Great Change Realm. A powerful and perfect aura of laws emerged, and Ning Qing immediately noticed some flaws in the spirit technique he had comprehended before. It was a feeling that couldn't be expressed in words. This was the aura of heaven and earth laws. Ning Qing didn't know if the Great Change Realm's heaven and earth laws were complete or not, but he was sure that the Great Change Realm's heaven and earth laws were far more complete than the Great Essence Realms. After all the alchemists walked out of the teleportation array, Kong Lianbo brought out an airship and said, "Dao friends, the Five Realms Pill competition will take place in the Great Change Alchemy City. The Great Change Alchemy City doesn't belong to any Dao court. You can come with me to the Great Change Alchemy City or leave alone. However, you must arrive at the Great Change Alchemy City in 3 months." Ning Qing quickly said, "Union Master Kong, my friend has to go back and have a look. I won't go to the Great Change Alchemy City for the time being. After 3 months, I will definitely return to the Great Change Alchemy City to participate in the pill competition." "Of course," Kong Lianbo said with a smile. He had a good impression of Ning Qing. After Ning Qing thanked him, he greeted Si Chen, Qiu Tian, and Lu Dongzi before quickly leaving with Qianqian. The teleportation array from the Five Realms Void City to the Great Change Realm was built in the Great Change Realm's Yuanyuan Sacred Dao City. Yuanyuan Sacred Dao City, like the Great Change Alchemy City, didn't belong to any Dao court or sect. Although it was a neutral sacred city, it didn't seem to be prosperous. Most people would leave in a hurry after arriving here and just treat it as a temporary place to stay. According to Qianqian, the spirit qi in the Yuanyuan Sacred Dao City was very weak, and it was difficult to gather spirit qi. Therefore, few people were willing to live in this place. Ning Qing brought out an airship and quickly left the Yuanyuan Sacred Dao City with Qianqian and stepped into the Great Change Realm. Only then did Ning Qing understand the meaning of Pan Qian's words. Pan Qian had never been to the Great Change Realm, or rather, he didn't dare to go to the Great Change Realm at all. Pan Qian's impression of the Great Change Realm came from Shi Er's words. In his eyes, the Great Change Realm was filled with pure and rich spirit qi, Dao charm, and treasures. It was a paradise for cultivators. Ning Qing didn't see any treasures, but the spirit qi here wasn't something the Great Essence Realm could compare to. Not only was the spirit qi pure and rich, but the vast and boundless laws of heaven and earth also made people feel relaxed and happy. Moreover, this was just a place where the spirit qi in the Great Change Realm was relatively weak. Not many people came here. This really is a paradise for cultivators. Ning Qing thought of this and spoke up with emotion. In his heart, he started to think about the 5 powerful spirit techniques of the 5 great realms and how powerful the formless Tai Yi was. The formless Tai Yi not only ranked first among the 5 great spirit techniques, but it also ranked in the top 3 among the top 10 spirit techniques in the vast universe. From this, one could see how powerful the formless Tai Yi was. The shallow cloud villa where I live with big sister Shi Er. The spirit qi there is much better than here. Not only is it beautiful. Qianqian said as she thought of Ning Qing asked, how long will it take to get to the Shallow Cloud Villa from here? If we can make it, let's go to the Shallow Cloud Villa first. Chapter 1063. The Shallow Cloud Manor belongs to the territory of the Glazed Dao Court. If we fly from here, we can reach the Absolute Lightning Sacred Dao City in about 10 days. From Absolute Thunder Sacred Dao City, you can directly teleport to Wading Sacred Dao City, and then fly for 3 days from Wading Sacred Dao City to Shallow Cloud Villa. Qianqian estimated the speed of Ning Cheng's airship before saying, it won't take that many days. After Ning Cheng spoke, he brought out the Starry Sky Wheel. The Starry Sky Wheel's speed was several times faster than the airship Ning Cheng currently used. Just as Ning Cheng said, it only took him and Qianqian 3 days to reach Absolute Thunder Sacred Dao City. From there, they took the teleportation array to Wuting Sacred Dao City. The Absolute Thunder Sacred Dao City was located at the edge of the Glazed Dao Court. It was similar to the Yuanyuan Sacred Dao City and wasn't very lively. However, the Wuting Sage Dao City was a very important Sage Dao City for the Crystal Jewel Dao Pavilion. Not only were there many cultivators coming and going, there were also many experts living here. Big Brother Ning, Wuting Sacred Dao City's city master Lu Fengzhen is very strong. Furthermore, Lu Fengzhen had participated in the massacre of the Tai primeval giant clan. If it weren't for big sister he would have killed big brother Pan Qian. After coming out of Wuting Sacred Dao City's teleportation array, Qianqian carefully sent a voice transmission to Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng understood Qianqian's meaning and gave her a reassuring look, we'll leave this place immediately. We won't go to the city. Qianqian. Ning Cheng and Qianqian hadn't even walked out of the city gate's restrictions when a sudden voice called out. The person called Qianqian was a late-stage Dao birth man with a slightly thin figure. Not only was the Dao rune aura on his body valiant, but it also carried a sharp edge. At one glance, one could tell that he was someone who lived on the edge of life and death all year round. Senior Brother Yuan, why are you here? Qianqian also recognized the man in front of her and asked in surprise. Saying that, she immediately introduced him to Ning Cheng. Big Brother Ning, this is Senior Apprentice Brother Yuanji, we had once teamed up to go to the underground abyss to train together. Yuanji obviously did not care about Ning Cheng. He just nodded at Ning Cheng casually and stared at Qianqian in disbelief. Qianqian, you and I were both at the mid-stage Dao birth back then, and your foundation was even stronger than mine. How did you become like this? We haven't seen you since that time in the underground abyss. Where did you go? Qianqian understood Yuanji's words. Why was it that after 10,000 years, his cultivation level had declined from the Dao birth to the Dao modeling instead of rising? Qianqian's eyes dimmed and she said dejectedly, that time, I encountered danger and almost fell in the underground abyss. In addition, some things have happened to me over the years, causing my cultivation to drop. By the way, do you, Zhang Chu, Wenzai, and the others often go to the underground abyss? Yuanji shook his head. Wenzai died a long time ago. After that, something happened in the underground abyss. I heard that there was a problem with the blood pillar suppressing the demons in the underground abyss. Hearing that there was a problem with the blood column, Qianqian asked anxiously, what happened after that? How are you now? Yuanji looked at Qianqian suspiciously, but still explained, after something happened to the suppressed demonic creatures in the underground abyss, the Grandee experts once again entered the underground abyss to forcefully suppress them. Currently, the underground abyss is no longer allowed to enter. As for the specifics, I have never gone down there. Wenzai, who formed a team with us, died because of a problem with the blood pillar suppressing the underground abyss. Seeing that Qianqian had fallen silent, Yuanji spoke again, Qianqian, why don't you come with me to the ice forest floating island? Although it's a bit dangerous there, it has plenty of spirit qi. I'm sure it won't take long for you to recover your cultivation. I'm not going. Thank you, Senior Apprentice Brother Yuan. Qianqian quickly refused. No, your cultivation has regressed so much. If you don't work hard, I don't know what will happen to you in the end. Yuan Ji quickly said. Ning Cheng looked at Qianqian in doubt. For Yuan Ji to say such words, did he have a good relationship with Qianqian and not just a normal teammate? Qianqian also felt a little puzzled. She and Yuan Ji were just teammates. Although they were friends before, they didn't care about each other's cultivation. Ning Cheng looked at Qianqian's expression and understood that Qianqian and Yuan Ji didn't have a good relationship. Yuan Ji seemed a bit too enthusiastic. Yuan Ji also realized that he was being too enthusiastic. He sighed and said, "The four of us teamed up to train together in the underground abyss and helped each other. Now, I don't know where Zhang Chu went, and when Zai fell in the underground abyss. Thinking about it made me sigh. Now that I see that your cultivation has fallen to the Tao sculpting realm, I can't help but sigh in my heart." Qianqian felt relieved when she heard Yuan Ji's words. Yuan Ji's words also evoked some sadness in her. She also sighed, "Senior apprentice brother Yuan, I do have some things to take care of. After I finish these things, I might go to the ice forest floating island." Seeing Qianqian say this, Yuan Ji didn't say anything else. He could only exchange communication messages with Qianqian before sending Ning Cheng and Qianqian away from Wuting's sacred Tao city. "Are you familiar with this Yuan Ji?" After the starry sky will left Wuting's sacred Tao city, Ning Cheng asked Qianqian. Qianqian shook her head, "No, we only teamed up before. It's probably because he's the only one left among the four of us." "Did you always stay in Wuting's sacred Tao city?" Ning Cheng asked again. Qianqian nodded, "Yes, because Wuting's sacred Tao city is suitable for my cultivation. Plus, it's close to the shallow cloud villa, so I can often go back to the villa." Ning Cheng suspected that Yuan Ji deliberately stayed in Wuting's sacred Tao city to wait for Qianqian. But it was just a guess. Waiting for 10,000 years was just a legend. If there was a real version of waiting for 10,000 years, Ning Cheng would have some doubts about it. Unless he was waiting for Qianqian. But in fact, when he saw Qianqian, he just invited Qianqian to the ice forest floating island and didn't say anything. In less than a day, Ning Cheng and Qianqian appeared outside the shallow cloud villa. This place was indeed a wonderful place for cultivation, surrounded by green mountains and clear waters. The spirit qi here wasn't any weaker than in Wuting's sacred Tao city. Within the shallow cloud villa's restrictions, one could vaguely see the shadow of a pavilion. "Big brother Ning, this is the shallow cloud villa. Since big sister asked me to leave and prepare for reincarnation, I've only looked around from the outside, never." Qianqian's words suddenly stopped, and her expression changed. As soon as Ning Cheng came here, he knew that someone was in the shallow cloud villa. But he still had some doubts in his heart. Since she had called Qianqian away, no one should have lived here. But now that Qianqian's expression changed, Ning Cheng understood that someone had occupied this place. How could anyone live here? Qianqian muttered to herself. Ning Cheng asked in confusion, "Since there's no one in the shallow cloud villa, it should be an ownerless place, right? Since it's an ownerless place, would there be a problem for others to live here?" Qianqian shook her head. "There are indeed many ownerless places in the Grand Change realm, but the shallow cloud villa isn't one of them. Although the shallow cloud villa is in the Luoying Dao court and nominally belongs to the Luoying Dao pavilion, it's actually a private place that belongs to Big Sister Her. Unless Big Sister takes the initiative to give this place to others, it would be under the protection of the Dao court." After saying that, Qianqian looked at Ning Cheng expectantly. Apparently, she wanted Ning Cheng to make the decision. It would be best if they could take back the shallow cloud villa. Ning Cheng remained silent for a long time before saying, "Qianqian, whether we can take back the shallow cloud villa or not is secondary. Even if we can take it back, we can't do anything now. Once we take action now, others will immediately know about it. It would be very disadvantageous for us to go to the underground abyss to find Since someone used to suppress the underground demonic creatures, that person would definitely keep an eye on the shallow cloud villa. My idea is to find an excuse to go in and have a look." Qianqian understood that Ning Cheng was right, but they could only do this. In fact, even if they disguised themselves, it wouldn't be appropriate. However, Qianqian did feel anxious. She didn't know what kind of damage Big Sister Shi-er's residence would cause. A day later, the restrictions outside the Shallow Cloud Villa activated. Ning Cheng, disguised as a middle-aged man, stood outside the restrictions. Ning Cheng waited for half an incense stick worth of time before the restrictions finally opened. A yellow-bearded old man appeared inside the restrictions. He stared at Ning Cheng and didn't speak. Ning Cheng frowned slightly and cupped his fists. "This Dao friend, I'm Yin Qian's elder brother, Yin Cheng. You're in the wrong place. Yin Qian isn't here." The old man finished and was about to activate the restrictions again. Without waiting for the old man to activate the restrictions, Ning Cheng took a step forward and forced his way through the restrictions. He then asked with a calm face, "My sister Yin Qian has always been in the Shallow Cloud Villa. How can you say that she isn't here? What the hell is going on? You dare to break into a private cave?" The old man's expression suddenly turned cold. As he spoke, his aura overflowed. However, he only had a Dao sculpting cultivation and didn't dare to do anything to Ning Cheng. He only did this to scare Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng had heard from Yin Qian that in the Luying Dao court, any act of breaking into a private cave was considered a serious provocation. The Luying Dao Pavilion, in order to strengthen the Dao court's cohesiveness and governance, would kill anyone who did such a thing. In other words, as long as the Luying Dao Pavilion found out about Ning Cheng's current actions, they would kill him without a doubt. "This is your private cave. How come I don't know about it?" The Shallow Cloud Villa belongs to Shi-er, and Yin Qian is always by Shi-er's side. I've come here a few times, but I've never heard of this place becoming someone else's. Ning Cheng sneered and pressed down on the other party with his aura. Sure enough, after the old man heard Ning Cheng's words, a trace of astonishment flashed across his face. He couldn't find any words to refute Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng felt a little surprised. He had thought that since this person dared to live in the Shallow Cloud Villa, the Dao court must have allowed it. Since it was allowed, then when he said that the Shallow Cloud Villa belonged to Shi-er, the other party should have refuted it. Once the other party refuted it, Ning Cheng would know if the Shallow Cloud Villa was released by the Luying Dao court. At the same time, he would also know if the Luying Dao court's shadow was behind Shi-er's nailing to the ground. "I'm really sorry. When we lived here, we didn't know that this place had an owner. If the owner comes back, we can move out at any time." A crisp voice arrived, and a woman wearing a sky blue dress walked over. Chapter 1064. Ning Cheng's heart suddenly tightened. It wasn't because this woman was easy to talk to. It was because of this woman's cultivation. This woman's body was filled with condensed Dao runes and the surrounding space was filled with a powerful law aura. Ning Cheng didn't even need to check the other party's cultivation to know that this woman was at least a primordial chaos expert. "That's not it. This place isn't mine. I just came to see my sister," Ning Cheng quickly said. "When we came here, this place was empty. Because someone brought me here and allowed me to cultivate here, I have been able to stay here until today. As for your sister and Shi-er, I've never seen them before," the blue-robed woman said politely. Ning Cheng hesitated before saying, "Then can I go in and have a look?" The reason why he hesitated was because this woman's cultivation was too strong. So strong that he almost couldn't resist. Fortunately, he didn't see any killing intent from this woman. If there was even the slightest killing intent, he wouldn't have gone in. If this woman had killing intent towards him, no matter how deep she hid it, he would be able to detect it. In fact, not only did this woman not have killing intent, but her eyes also looked very kind. Her forehead was slightly wide and her eyes were very bright, giving people a sense of peace and intimacy. Although this woman didn't look particularly beautiful, she was very pleasing to the eye. "Of course," the blue-robed woman said with a smile and took the initiative to lead the way. She gave Yemo the feeling that whether it was speaking or acting, she was extremely gentle, giving people a feeling of a spring breeze. After Ningqing followed behind the blue-robed woman and entered the restriction, he saw a gatehouse with 4 words carved on it, Shallow Cloud Villa. What made Ningqing puzzled was that under the words Shallow Cloud Villa, there were 3 slightly more delicate words, Guangyuan Palace. Seeing Ningqing look at the 3 words Guangyuan Palace, the blue-robed woman smiled and said, "The place I used to live was called Guangyuan Palace. After I left home, I felt homesick, so I wrote the 3 words Guangyuan Palace." Ningqing's impression of this blue-robed woman soared. If it was someone else, they might have thrown the Shallow Cloud Villa aside the moment they put up the 3 words Guangyuan Palace. But this woman not only didn't throw away the 4 words Shallow Cloud Villa, but also put up the 3 words Guangyuan Palace. "Would you like to take a seat first, fellow Taoist Yin, or would you like to take a look at your friend's residence?" the woman in the blue dress asked softly. Ningqing cupped his fists and thanked him. "I'm a little worried about my sister, I'd better go and take a look at her residence first." The blue-dressed woman said to the yellow-bearded old man, "Yang Kai, bring Dao friend Yin to the backyard to take a look." "Yes, Mississippi." The yellow-bearded old man hurriedly responded. Ningqing understood that this yellow-bearded old man should be the servant of this blue-robed woman. Shi-Er's immortal cave was not located in the deepest part of this place. Ningqing followed the yellow-bearded old man and soon arrived in front of a garden with intact restrictions. The yellow-bearded old man pointed at the garden and said, "This is the place where the original owner lived. Not only did my family's young miss not touch the restrictions here, she even added a layer of restrictions outside. Many thanks, Dao friend." After Ningqing thanked him, his figure flashed a few times before he directly entered the restriction. The yellow-bearded old man looked at Ningqing's disappearing back, hesitated for a moment, before turning around to leave. Soon he arrived at the side of the blue-robed woman. "Did he go in?" the blue-dressed woman asked casually. The yellow-bearded old man nodded and hesitated for a while before saying, "He forcefully broke through the restriction." "Could it be?" The blue-dressed woman seemed to know the yellow-bearded old man's hesitation, so she smiled and said, "He might not be called Yin Cheng, but he should know the people who lived here before, and it's likely his first time here. When your cultivation reaches a certain level, you can also sense the other party's Dao rune fluctuations through the laws of heaven and earth. This Dao friend Yin's Dao rune fluctuations are not obvious, but he is extremely powerful. I'm afraid that even ordinary Dao transformation divine emperors might not be his match." The yellow-bearded old man did not feel strange about the blue-dressed woman's words. He nodded and took it for granted. After Ningqing entered the restriction, he found that Shi-Er's residence was very simple. Apart from a garden, there was only a cultivation room that wasn't very big. Because no one had taken care of the garden for a long time, it was already overgrown with weeds. Ningqing didn't clean up the garden but walked into Shi-Er's cultivation room. Just as he guessed, apart from a simple jade bed, there was only a jade table and a praying mat. Because the room was protected by restrictions, there was no dust. Ningqing grabbed the praying mat and looked at it for a long time, but he couldn't find anything wrong with it. The jade bed was even more empty. There was nothing there. On the jade table, there was a small mountain model. Ningqing picked up the mountain model and saw the words World Mountain on it. Ningqing put away the World Mountain model and found that there was nothing inside, so he turned around and left in disappointment. In Ningqing's opinion, this was normal. Shi-Er didn't want Qianqian and Pan Qian to come back, so how could she leave anything here? After Ningqing walked out, he found that the blue-dressed woman was still waiting for him outside, which made him feel very embarrassed. A primordial essence divine emperor was waiting for a Dao nourishment divine emperor. No one would believe it. All along, no matter how gentle the cultivators Ningqing met, they wouldn't wait for a Dao nourishment divine emperor with primordial essence cultivation. If Dao friend Yin is not in a hurry, you can sit here for a while. If Dao friend Yin is in a hurry, I can ask Liang Kai to send you out now. As for Shallow Cloud Manor, Dao friend Yin can take it back at any time, the blue-dressed woman said with a smile. If it was another primordial essence divine emperor, Ning Cheng would never stay here after investigating Shallow Cloud Manor. But since the blue-dressed woman said that she wanted him to stay, he could stay and ask a few questions. Then I'll have to bother you, senior sister. My name is Nian. You can call me by my name. The woman's tone was even softer. After saying that, she led Ning Cheng to the guest hall and sat down, before pouring a cup of spiritual tea for Ning Cheng. Senior apprentice Sister Nian, I just saw some messages in my younger sister's room. She told me that this is not a place to stay for long and wanted me to leave. Ning Cheng did not speak too straightforwardly, but rather vaguely. Nian nodded and said, You're from the Great Change Realm, so you should know about the underground abyss, right? Ning Cheng naturally wouldn't say that he wasn't from the Great Change Realm. He nodded and said, Yes, the underground abyss is a good place for trials. But because of some problems a few years ago, it's very difficult to go to the underground abyss to find demonic crystals. When I first came here, my cultivation level was only at the Dao Birth realm. I met a powerhouse who felt that I had a lot of potential and said that we were fated, so he let me settle in Shallow Cloud Manor. When Nian said that, Ning Cheng felt that something was wrong. He opened his mouth to say something but eventually swallowed the words he was about to say. Nian was somewhat similar to she. They were both people with pure hearts. This kind of person was probably the most suitable to suppress the demonic creatures in the underground abyss. That person probably sent Nian here to suppress the demonic creatures in the underground abyss in the future. What Ning Cheng couldn't understand was that according to Yuan Ji, the demonic creatures in the underground abyss had erupted once. It stood to reason that Nian should have been nailed to the blood pillar in the underground abyss to suppress the demonic creatures. Why was she still here? By the way, she was a primordial essence expert. If someone wanted to use her to suppress the demonic creatures, it wouldn't be easy, right? Thinking that Nian was a primordial essence divine emperor, Ning Cheng became even more puzzled. Nian had come to this place less than 10,000 years ago. According to Nian, she was also a Dao Birth sacred emperor when she came. In less than 10,000 years, Nian had advanced to primordial essence sacred emperor? What kind of terrifying aptitude and Dao insight did she have? Ning Cheng knew that he had the mysterious yellow bead and cultivated the mysterious yellow formless. However, he had some doubts about whether she could advance to primordial essence in 10,000 years. Nian could advance from Dao Birth Sacred Emperor to primordial essence in 10,000 years. This, as if sensing Ning Cheng's confusion, Nian said softly, When I first came here, I was only a Dao Birth Sacred Emperor. No one in the Great Change Realm cared about this cultivation level. As long as I didn't leave for a long time, the person who sent me here wouldn't care about me. Later, when the demonic creatures erupted, I was already a primordial essence sacred emperor. He came to see me, but he just sat here for a while and left after drinking a cup of spirit tea. Nian spoke very tactfully, but Ning Cheng heard it clearly. The person who came to see her could only leave dejectedly when he saw that she had such a powerful cultivation level. It would probably be a little difficult to catch a primordial essence sacred emperor to suppress the demonic creatures underground. It seemed like Nian was very clear about the reason why she lived here and the cause and effect. If she knew that she could advance from Dao birth to primordial essence within 10,000 years. Not only would her aptitude be strong, but her Dao insight would also be strong. Even her intelligence would be demonic to the extreme. Who let you settle in Shallow Cloud Manor? Ning Cheng asked hurriedly. That person must have raised Nian here to suppress the demonic creatures. Only someone who had suppressed demonic creatures would do so. Even if she, wasn't nailed to the blood pillar by him, it must have something to do with him. I only know that his name is Lu Fangzhen, and he seems to be the city lord of Wuting's sacred Dao city. His strength should be similar to mine. I've also seen the underground abyss once. Given his strength, I'm afraid he can't suppress it alone. I guess someone helped him. After listening to Nian's words, Ning Cheng knew that Nian knew everything very well. Otherwise, she wouldn't have said that. Ning Cheng stood up and said to Nian with cupped fists, Thank you, senior sister Nian. Senior Sister Nianyan's heart is pure and you understand the laws of heaven and earth. You must already know that I came here in disguise. Because my strength is too low, I hope Senior Sister Nianyan can forgive me if I offended you. Goodbye. He didn't need to worry about a person like Nianyan at all. Ning Cheng also understood why she was safe and sound. Given her Tao heart and understanding the laws of heaven and earth, she could advance at any time. The experts in the Great Change Realm weren't idiots. They wouldn't offend an expert like Nianyan. Chapter 1065. Big Brother Ning, how was it? As soon as Ning Cheng returned, Qianqian couldn't help but ask. Ning Cheng said, you don't have to worry, the place where she lives has not changed. The woman who moved in is similar to your sister She has a pure heart and a bright Tao heart. The reason why she lived here was because Lu Fengzhen wanted to use her as a sacrifice to suppress the underground monsters. However, Lu Fengzhen had not expected this woman's aptitude to be so high that she had advanced to the primordial chaos realm in less than 10,000 years. Furthermore, he's extremely powerful, so he doesn't dare to touch him. After listening to Ning Cheng's explanation, Qianqian finally felt relieved. Then Big Brother Ning, where are we going now? How long will it take to get to the underground abyss? At our current speed, it'll probably take a few months. Because there are 2 teleportation arrays that are quite far from each other, the flight time is also quite long. After learning that the underground abyss was very far away, Ning Cheng spoke up in a straightforward manner, let's return to the Grand Simplicity Alchemy City first. After participating in the 5 Realms Pill competition, we can then find a way to go to the underground abyss. Whether it was Si Chen, Qiu Tian, or himself, it would be a pity if they missed the 5 Realms Pill competition. Moreover, if he delayed the 5 Realm Elixir competition, the Elixir Association would definitely look for him everywhere. Once the Elixir Association searched for him, he would be exposed no matter where he teleported to, even if he disguised himself. His and Qianqian's trip to the underground abyss was a secret operation, and they could not be exposed before that. Qianqian also knew that Ning Cheng was telling the truth. Even if she didn't want big sister She to suffer in the underground abyss, she had no other choice. 2 hours later, Ning Cheng suddenly stopped the starry sky wheel. Just when Qianqian looked at Ning Cheng in confusion, a jet-black airship shadow suddenly appeared in front of the starry sky wheel. The flying boat stopped and a robust late-stage Tao birth male cultivator appeared at the bow of the flying boat. Bandits? Qianqian exclaimed in shock. It wasn't that she hadn't seen bandits before, but they would usually appear in remote and uninhabited places. It was impossible for them to appear in the territory of the Luing Dao court. It's not a road thief. He came here to kill me and then take you away. Ning Cheng spoke with a calm voice. He didn't even put away the starry sky wheel. At that moment, he was in a confinement killing array. He was at the early stage Tao birth, while the other party was at the late stage Tao birth. There was also a confinement killing array. No matter who saw it, Ning Cheng would die without a doubt. In Ning Cheng's opinion, he was not the one who would definitely die, but the late stage Tao birth cultivator who had stopped him. With his array Tao standards, a mere death trap array wanted to stop him. This fellow was simply courting death. After Qianqian heard Ning Cheng's words, she felt a little surprised. How did Ning Cheng know the other party's purpose? However, she very quickly reacted and looked at the late-stage Tao birth cultivator blocking her way with some sorrow in her eyes. 2 days ago, he was still talking about how he wanted to help her, but in the blink of an eye, he had disguised himself as a stranger and wanted to take her away. How could Qianqian not know that this Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor was Yuan Qi? Thinking back to what Ning Cheng had asked her before, she understood that Yuan Yi had only one purpose for stopping her here, which was to grab her and take her away. The reason for capturing her was simple, and that was because her identity had been discovered by Yuan Ji. Yuan Ji probably didn't know so many things. He was definitely helping someone else. As for why the person behind Yuan Ji wanted to find her, it must be to interrogate her about Pan Qian's whereabouts. Sure enough, after seeing the starry sky will stop, Yuan Ji made his move. A huge black cauldron smashed down from the void. This black cauldron directly ignored Ning Cheng's domain. At this moment, the entire world under the black cauldron was under Yuan Ji's control. A tearing sound could be heard in the air, devouring one's heart and soul. A sharp pressure gathered towards the center of the space enveloped by the black cauldron. An ice-cold strip with a deathly aura stabbed down from the center of the black cauldron's compressed space, and Ning Cheng was in the center of this ice-cold killing intent. Yuan Ji's eyes showed a trace of disdain. He had indeed set up a death trap array, but he couldn't use it at all. In his opinion, once he used his black cauldron's ice-cold spiritual power, Ning Cheng could only wait for death. If Ning Cheng was stronger, he might be able to break free from this spiritual power. But now, it seemed that Ning Cheng couldn't break free from this spiritual power. Ning Cheng indeed couldn't break free from the ice-cold strip with a dense deathly aura under the black cauldron. It wasn't that he couldn't break free from this spiritual power, but that this spiritual power didn't pose any threat to him. The moment the ice-cold strip fell, the long spear in Ning Cheng's hand abruptly moved. An ice-cold spear pattern containing the same Dao charm of space surged out, and the surrounding space suppressed by the black cauldron loosened at this moment, followed by a ka-ka sound. Even Qianqian, who was still watching the battle from the starry sky wheel, could feel the pressure around her lessening, and the oppressive feeling brought about by the black cauldron dissipated. The moment Ning Cheng's void cold light spear cracked open the space controlled by the black cauldron, Yuan Ji felt it. His eyes suddenly flashed with surprise. But before he could react, the silent spear mark struck the center of the black cauldron's ice-cold spear. Boom! The ice-cold arrow containing deathly aura was directly smashed into pieces by the cold light spear, and a tearing chill spread out. In just a few breaths, the deathly aura around the ice-cold arrow dissipated without a trace. Not good, this person is too strong. I'm definitely not his opponent. Yuan Ji immediately understood that the gap between him and Ning Cheng was too big. Even with the confinement and killing array, he was not Ning Cheng's opponent. At this moment, he no longer thought about killing Ning Cheng. Instead, he raised his hand and brought out several array flags. At the same time, a talisman appeared in his hand. How could Ning Cheng let Yuan Ji use the talisman to escape? A late-stage Dao birth cultivator posed no threat to him. Even if this late-stage Dao birth cultivator had set up a confinement and killing array, he would not be able to escape. Ning Cheng's figure seemed to distort space. When the endless Dao charm of confinement and killing blasted over, he calmly disappeared. When the Dao charm of confinement and killing blasted over the starry sky wheel, it only caused the starry sky wheel's defensive restrictions to shake. From the moment Yuan Ji brought out the array flags to activate the array formation and took out the escape talisman to when Ning Cheng calmly passed through the confinement and killing array, it took less than a breath. After a breath, Ning Cheng's spear pattern Dao charm bound Yuan Ji's escape talisman. An endless oppressive aura blasted over, and a trace of despair flashed through Yuan Ji's heart. He never expected that Ning Cheng would be so strong. Although they were both at the Dao birth realm, his cultivation level was higher than Ning Cheng's. Yet, he could not resist Ning Cheng. Puff, the cold light spear nailed the talisman. As it passed through the talisman, it nailed Yuan Ji to the void. Let me go, and I can tell you who wants to capture Qianqian. Yuan Ji's eyes turned ashen as he looked at Ning Cheng in despair. Ning Cheng raised the void cold light spear and picked Yuan Ji up. He looked at Yuan Ji and said calmly, "Do you want to say that the person who asked you to capture Qianqian is Wuting's sacred Dao city's Lu Fangzhen?" Yuan Ji's eyes showed disbelief. How did the other party know who asked him to look for Qianqian? I'll give you 3 breaths. Tell me why Lu Fangzhen wants to look for Qianqian. Ning Cheng guessed that Yuan Ji did not know why Lu Fangzhen wanted to look for Qianqian. But he still asked with hope in mind. After hearing Ning Cheng's words, Yuan Ji quickly called out, "Qianqian, for the sake of our team." 1 breath. Ning Cheng interrupted him. I don't know. You should be able to guess that Lu Fangzhen wouldn't tell me the reason. Yuan Ji saw that Qianqian didn't come over and understood that he couldn't ask Qianqian to save him. 2 breaths. Ning Qing ignored Yuan Ji's words. Yuan Ji's face turned pale. He knew that it was useless to say anything else. As Ning Cheng's 3 breaths of time passed, the cold light spear tore through Yuan Ji's essence spirit, and Ning Cheng put away Yuan Ji's ring. Let's go. Yuan Ji really doesn't know why Lu Fengzhen wants to find you. I guess it should be because of Pan Qian. Ning Cheng landed on the starry sky wheel and said to Qianqian. Qianqian's eyes were filled with disappointment. She didn't have many friends in the Grand Change realm. Even Yuan Ji and the others who teamed up with her were considered friends. But now, the ruthless truth made her feel sad. In the Grand Change realm, the 5 great Dao courts occupied almost 80% of the territory. The few ownerless territories were either public places that had already been negotiated with each other, or some extremely dangerous environments. There were also some places that didn't belong to the 5 great Dao courts or the 3 great Dao sects. Grand Change Alchemy City was such a sage Dao pill city that drifted away from the major forces. Grand Change Alchemy City belonged to the Pill Association in name, but in fact, this place was just the base of the Pill Association. The Alchemy City's city lord didn't necessarily have to be a member of the Pill Association. Those who competed for the position of city lord could be rogue cultivators, alchemists, or even figures from the 5 great Dao courts or the 3 great Dao sects. Regardless of the origin, one thing was certain, and that was that the city lord had to be fair and just. If there was any bullying or bias, the Pill Association would immediately kill the city lord without any mercy. Because of this, Grand Change Alchemy City could be said to be the fairest and most peaceful sage Dao city in the entire Grand Change realm. It was somewhat similar to Covered Snow City in stately River Star, where Ning Qing lived. As soon as Ning Qing arrived at Grand Change Alchemy City, he felt this situation. It was probably because of this environment that Grand Change Alchemy City was so lively. Since Ning Qing entered the Grand Change realm, Grand Change Alchemy City was the most lively sage Dao city he had ever seen. Excuse me, are you Pill Master Ning? Ning Cheng and Qianqian walked into Grand Change Alchemy City and were about to find a place to stay when a crisp voice called out to Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng stopped and looked at the pretty girl who called out to him and asked in confusion, "Yes, I'm Ning Cheng. Are you looking for me?" He didn't know this girl at all. If Si Chen, Qiu Tian, Lu Dongzi, or Kong Lianbo were looking for him, they would have sent a message to him directly instead of letting a stranger find him. The girl bowed and said, "I'm not looking for you. Our city lord is looking for you. Pill Master Ning, if you have time, please come with me." Your city lord? Grand Change Alchemy City lord? Ning Qing thought to himself. He had just entered Grand Change Alchemy City, and this city lord came looking for him. Didn't he have a bit too much face? Even if he won against Lu Dongzi, he wouldn't have such a big face. No, it's city lord Lu. The girl quickly explained. Ning Qing blurted out, "Is it Wuting Sacred Dao City's city lord Lu Fengzhen?" Chapter 1066. Hearing that a Dao Nourishment Divine Emperor dared to call Lu Fengzhen's name, the girl's face sunk and she said sternly, "City Lord Lu is looking for you. Pill Master Ning, come with me." If someone else invited him, he would probably go. Since this Lu Fengzhen invited him, Ning Cheng would never go. Moreover, Lu Fengzhen's invitation was not an invitation. To put it bluntly, it was an order. From the beginning to the end, this young girl never said that Lu Fengzhen had invited her. She only said that Lu Fengzhen had something to discuss with her. She was still unhappy when he mentioned Lu Fengzhen's name. Now, she didn't even need to ask if he was free. She just asked him to go with her. Did this guy think he was the ruler of heaven and earth? The Grand Change Realm's Dao Court might be a place with a strict hierarchy, but Ning Cheng wasn't someone from the Dao Court. "Sissy, let's go. Recently, there are a lot of people in the Great Simplicity Alchemy City. Let's not look for a place, let's go directly to Association Master Si Chen." Ning Qing didn't even bother to pay attention to this girl and directly called out to Qianqian. Pill Master Ning, you should come with me to pay a visit to City Lord Lu first. The young girl's expression turned even uglier. Throughout history, whenever City Lord Lu wanted to meet someone, she only needed to say a word. Most of the time, she didn't even need to show up herself. She could just call someone over to greet her. She purposely used the word greet, meaning that City Lord Lu's status was much higher than his. Even though this was not Wuting's sacred Dao city, no one dared to disregard City Lord Lu's words in this place. This time, she had personally come to find Ning Cheng, but because Ning Cheng was a pill master, she had given him enough face. Now, it seemed that even if she gave him face, he might not even give her the time of day. Ning Cheng stopped, looked at the girl and asked, "Does Lu Fengzhen know me?" City Lord Lu has never seen alchemist Ning before. Ning Cheng calling out Lu Fengzhen's name for the second time made the girl even angrier. However, she did not have the courage to do anything to the pill masters of the Five Realms pill competition. After saying this sentence, she felt a little unhappy in her heart and threatened him, "Ning Cheng, City Master Lu asked you to go. If you don't go, have you thought about the consequences? I'm afraid it's not something a puny Grand Essence Realm alchemist like you can bear. Even if your alchemy Dao isn't bad, it's the same." Ning Cheng showed a faint smile. If he did not threaten him, he would at most refuse. But threatening him? "Who do you think you are, Lu Fengzhen? Lu Fengzhen doesn't know me, and I don't know him either. Why would I go see him? Does he have one more egg than others, or is his face bigger than others' buttocks?" After saying this sentence, Ning Cheng did not wait for the other party to answer and directly walked away. It wasn't that he wanted to intentionally offend Lu Fengzhen, but he had long since run out of leeway with Lu Fengzhen. There was no point in enduring anymore. Since Lu Fengzhen was looking for him for no reason, he must have found some clues. Perhaps they only wanted to interrogate him about the whole story. In other words, if he went to see Lu Fengzhen and Lu Fengzhen accidentally killed him, he could only blame it on his bad luck. With Lu Fengzhen's status, if he killed a mere alchemist like him, even if he would be condemned by the Elixir Association or be held accountable, they would not do anything to him. Since they were destined to be enemies, there was no need to kneel and lick each other's stinky feet. Watching Ning Cheng and Qianqian walk away, the messenger girl's face turned livid with anger, and her whole body trembled. She had never seen such an arrogant guy. He was just a Dao Nourishment Divine Emperor. So what if he was a pill sage? Big Brother Ning, Lu Fengzhen is famous for seeking revenge for the smallest grievance. I'm afraid, seeing that Ning Cheng not only didn't go to see Lu Fengzhen, but also spoke rudely, Qianqian immediately spoke with some worry. Ning Cheng smiled, "Qianqian, don't worry. Lu Fengzhen came looking for us because he became suspicious. Even if we listen to him, he won't let us go. I'm sorry, I implicated you." Qianqian thought of Pan Qian, who had blocked the way before, and spoke with some sadness. Ning Cheng said directly, "Qianqian, you're wrong. Pan Qian and I have a life-and-death friendship. His matters are my matters." With Lu Fengzhen by his side, Ning Cheng went to find Sichen Qiu Tian. Fortunately, Sichen Qiu Tian had already arranged a room for him. The 5 great Dao courts each had a rest stop in Great E Alchemy City, and Lu Fengzhen lived in the Jade Pearl rest stop. The Jade Pearl rest stop wasn't far from Ning Cheng's unparalleled rest stop. However, in Great E Alchemy City, even a few steps away couldn't be detected with spiritual consciousness. At this moment, Lu Fengzhen listened to the girl's words with a calm expression. He didn't get angry when Ning Cheng compared his face to someone else's ass. His gaze didn't even change. After the girl finished speaking, he said in a calm voice, "You can go now." "I got it." After Ning Cheng returned to the rest stop, he continued to study the universe plants. As long as he didn't go out, Lu Fengzhen couldn't do anything to him. If there was anything he didn't understand, he would immediately ask Lu Dongzi, who also lived in unparalleled rest stop. As for the few plants that weren't marked, Lu Dongzi didn't know. As for what he knew, he told Ning Cheng without reservation. After more than 2 months, Ning Cheng had already read 2/3 of the universe plants in his hand. During these 2 months, Ning Cheng had gained a lot. Not only because of the contents of the universe plants, but also because of the Pill Dao discussion with Lu Dongzi, which gave him a lot of inspiration. When it came to the Pill Dao, Lu Dongzi had a higher level than Si Chen Qiu Tian. In addition to his understanding of the Pill Dao, Ning Cheng and Lu Dongzi also forged a deep friendship. Lu Dongzi had a direct personality and didn't like to beat around the bush. This kind of personality made it easy for him to offend people, but he got along well with Ning Cheng. On this day, Ning Cheng had just put down the universe plants when the restriction at the door was triggered. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept out and saw Si Chen Qiu Tian and a strange middle-aged Confucian scholar standing at the door. He immediately noticed that this strange Confucian scholar's cultivation wasn't any worse than Si Chen Qiu Tian's. In other words, the other party was at least a primordial chaos powerhouse. Which primordial chaos holy emperor came to find him? Ning Cheng opened the room's restriction, but before he could speak, Si Chen Qiu Tian smiled and said, "Ning Cheng, this is Wuting's sacred Dao city lord, Lu Fangzhen. He heard that your Pill Dao is amazing, so he came to visit." If it was an ordinary person, they would definitely be shocked to learn that a primordial chaos holy emperor came to visit a small Dao nourishment holy emperor pill master like Ning Cheng. Si Chen Qiu Tian didn't feel surprised. Ning Cheng had the qualifications to make any primordial chaos holy emperor come to visit him. Ning Cheng's heart skipped a beat. He didn't expect Lu Fangzhen to be so magnanimous. He had ridiculed Lu Fangzhen like that. If it was anyone else, they would only act in secret and would never take the initiative to visit. The reason why he ridiculed Lu Fangzhen mercilessly in the first place, apart from disdain for Lu Fangzhen's attitude and knowing that the two of them wouldn't become friends. Another purpose was to let him know that Lu Fangzhen was his opponent. When Lu Fangzhen secretly acted against him, he could prepare for the 5 realms pill competition with peace of mind. In any case, Ning Cheng didn't expect Lu Fangzhen to take the initiative to visit him. "So it's City Lord Lu. Please come in. Union Master Si Chen, please come in." Lu Fangzhen had lowered his stance this time. No matter what his purpose was, Ning Cheng couldn't say anything before Lu Fangzhen fell out with him. He had to invite Union Master Si Chen in. Otherwise, what would he do if Lu Fangzhen suddenly attacked him? Si Chen Qiu Tian also didn't plan to leave. No matter why Lu Fangzhen came to see Ning Cheng, Lu Fangzhen was still a primordial essence holy emperor. Ning Cheng was the person he was most optimistic about. Therefore, he naturally couldn't let Ning Cheng be alone with an unfamiliar primordial essence holy emperor. For this 5 realms pill competition, I also received an invitation from the Great Change Pill Meet. I've long heard that Pill Sage Ning's Tao of Alchemy has reached a new level. This Lu came uninvited, I hope Pill Sage Ning won't blame me. Lu Fangzhen not only spoke naturally but also spoke politely. It was as if he wasn't the one who directly ordered Ning Cheng to go there last time. I didn't expect City Lord Lu to be a person who loves alchemy. That's for the best. Let's discuss the Tao of Alchemy together. Ning Cheng pretended to be surprised. As long as Lu Fangzhen agreed to discuss the Tao of Alchemy with Si Chen Qiu Tian, he could just leave Lu Fangzhen here for a few days and nights. Lu Fangzhen quickly waved his hand and said, "I just like to interact with alchemists. I don't have a deep understanding of the Tao of Alchemy. By the way, I heard that when Pill Sage Ning first arrived in the Great Change Realm, you went out for a walk. Did you gain anything?" Regardless of what Lu Fangzhen meant by this question, Ning Cheng still replied calmly, "The Great Change Realm is too big. I wandered around for a few days but couldn't find any clues. So, I simply returned to Alchemy City." Lu Fangzhen said with a straight face, "I admire Pill Sage Ning's achievements in the Tao of Alchemy. But although the Great Change Realm is jointly protected by the 5 major Tao courts, it still has some turbulence. All along, alchemists have made the greatest contributions. The Great Change Alchemy City is close to the Luying Dao Pavilion. If something happens, my Luying Dao Pavilion would be ashamed to face the Pill Meet. Ning Qing sneered in his heart but didn't say anything. Let's see how you play. Seeing that Ning Qing didn't say anything, Lu Fengzhen took the initiative to speak up. Pil Sage Ning should know about the Great Change Giant clan, right? The Great Change Giant clan once plotted to seize the entire Great Change realm. Fortunately, we discovered it early and finally managed to prevent this disaster. Unfortunately, there are still some fish that escaped the net. There's a saying that wildfire can't burn away anything, but the spring wind blows it again. What they lack the most are alchemists who can refine Dao pills for them. Therefore, I'm very worried about this 5 realms pill competition. Many thanks for City Lord Lu's concern. But I don't plan on leaving this place before the 5 realms pill competition ends, Ning Qing said with a sour tone in his heart. The ancient giant clan was a threat. This Lu Fengzhen was truly shameless. Lu Fengzhen nodded and said with a solemn tone, I heard that you have a woman named Xianqian by your side. Did you bring her from the void city of the 5 realms? Here it comes, Ning Qing thought to himself. He just didn't know if Lu Fengzhen learned about Xianqian after Yuanji's death or before. According to his judgment, Lu Fengzhen should have learned about it after Yuanji's death. Otherwise, someone like Lu Fengzhen wouldn't have waited for him and Xianqian to arrive at the Great Change Sacred Dao City before intercepting them. Chapter 1067. Xianqian is my friend. I've known her for a long time. She wasn't brought here from the void city of the 5 realms. Even though he knew that Lu Fengzhen knew Xianqian's identity, Ning Qing still denied it. After Lu Fengzhen heard Ning Cheng's words, he asked, Pill Master Ning, do you know about the Glazed Dao Quartz Dao Crossing Pool? Dao Crossing Pool? Ning Cheng had never heard of such a thing before. Si Chen's Chiu Tian, who hadn't spoken until now, felt that something was wrong with the atmosphere. Seeing that Ning Qing didn't understand anything about the Dao Crossing Pond, he added from the side, the Dao Crossing Pond is the Glazed Dao Quartz No. 1 treasure land. It can help first step Dao confirming holy emperors feel the Dao charm laws of the second step Dao charm. I heard that many Dao essence powerhouses came out of the Dao Crossing Pond. However, not everyone can go to the Dao Crossing Pool. Only an extremely small number of genius divine emperors have the opportunity to comprehend the second step Dao essence. By the side, Lu Fengzhen smiled and added, Union Head Si Chen is right. The Dao Crossing Pond is indeed the No. 1 treasure land of my Glazed Dao Court. Alchemist Ning is shockingly talented, and even Guild Master Kong thinks very highly of him. When I came to Alchemy City, I asked Dao Lord about it. If Pill Master Ning is willing, my Glazed Dao Court's Dao Crossing Pond can be opened for Pill Master Ning at any time. Ning Qing spoke up calmly, I don't deserve it. The Glazed Dao Court's Dao Crossing Pond is a treasure land of the Grand Change Realm. As an alchemist from the Grand Essence Realm, I wouldn't dare to act rashly. Lu Fengzhen's complexion changed. How could Alchemist Ning not have any merit? Our Dao Lord has some questions for Xianqian. For Pill Master Ning to find Xianqian and bring her to the Grand Change Realm is a great merit in itself. Oh, thank you, Brother Lu. I indeed found Xianqian and brought her to the Grand Change Realm. I didn't expect it to be such a great contribution. Ning Qing showed a smile on his face and spoke with cupped fists. Hearing Ning Cheng's words, Lu Fengzhen immediately felt overjoyed. He stood up and said, Pill Master Ning can apply to my Luiying Dao Court's Dao Crossing Pool at any time. Since I have something to do, I won't disturb Pill Master Ning. Pill Master Ning, please call Xianqian out and come with me. Ning Cheng's face sank, City Master Lu, Xianqian is currently in secluded cultivation. I won't be able to go with you. Lu Fengzhen's eyes turned cold. So Pill Master Ning was just playing with me just now. Ning Qing still spoke up in a calm manner, I don't dare to say that it's a pastime, but I did not say that I would let Xianqian go with you. If City Lord Lu says that finding Xianqian and bringing her to the Great Change Realm doesn't count as a merit, I don't have any objections. City Lord Lu, have a safe journey. I won't be sending you off. After saying that, Ning Qing did not wait for Lu Fengzhen to quibble, and directly stood up to send him off. very good. Lu Fengzhen once again restored his calm, as he turned around and walked out of Ning Cheng's room. Si Chen Qiu Tian did not ask Ning Cheng why he fell out with Lu Fengzhen. He just spoke to Ning Cheng, there are only a few days left before the 5 Realms pill competition. You have to be careful. I've gained quite a lot these few days, and I still have to deduce the pill formula, so I won't talk to you anymore. Many thanks, Union Leader Si Chen. However, Union Leader can leave later. Let's concoct a batch of pills first. Ning Cheng had already felt Situ Chen Qiu Tian's confidence in the Tao of alchemy returning. As long as he refined another batch of Heavenly Heaven Essence pills, Situ Chen Qiu Tian would take another step forward. As he spoke, Ning Cheng took out a batch of ingredients for the Heavenly Heaven pill. Si Chen Qiu Tian had long wanted to concoct such a batch of pills, but his confidence in the Tao of alchemy had already cracked. He had started to break the jar and used up some of the ingredients for the Heavenly Heaven pill. Now that Ning Cheng had taken out a batch of Heavenly Heaven pills ingredients, as long as he successfully concocted this batch of pills, his Tao heart would take another step forward. Si Chen Qiu Tian nodded to Ning Cheng but did not say any words of gratitude. Ning Cheng had helped him enough. If not for Ning Cheng, he did not know what would have happened to him. Seeing Si Chen Qiu Tian sorting out the materials for alchemy, Ning Cheng directly activated the restrictions in the room and sat to the side without speaking. Instead, he focused on watching Si Chen Qiu Tian concoct pills. Si Chen Qiu Tian was very meticulous. He took out hundreds of materials one by one, sorted them into categories, and put them aside. His level in the Tao of alchemy was very high, but his alchemy ability was far inferior to Ning Cheng's. After finishing this, Si Chen Qiu Tian brought out the pill furnace and the pill fire. It was another divine flame. Even if Ning Cheng did not know about this flame, he knew that Si Chen Qiu Tian's flame was very powerful. Si Chen Qiu Tian sent one divine grass after another into the pill furnace. After another 2 hours, Si Chen Qiu Tian also sent the Heaven Essence fruit and the Extreme Yin Sacred fruit into the pill furnace. Compared to Ning Cheng's alchemy speed, Si Chen Qiu Tian's speed was much slower. The Tao charm in the pill furnace surged, and Si Chen Qiu Tian's entire consciousness fell on the pill furnace. Ning Cheng, who stood to the side, could only see Si Chen Qiu Tian's pill technique constantly flowing above the pill furnace, step by step, without any pause. After a day, Si Chen Qiu Tian finally threw out some of the impurities from the divine grass. If Ning Cheng had to refine this batch of Heavenly Heaven pills, he would have already finished refining it. However, Ning Cheng knew that there were many alchemy techniques. His method of alchemy combined his understanding of the Tao of alchemy with the Tao charm of heaven and earth. This kind of alchemy had very strict requirements. Not only did the pill furnace and the pill fire need to be powerful, but it also depended on the alchemy master's understanding of the Tao of alchemy. Si Chen Qiu Tian's alchemy technique and Ning Cheng's alchemy technique were essentially the same. The reason why it was slow was because of their different understandings of the Tao of alchemy. Moreover, there was another alchemy technique that could take several years to refine a batch of Heavenly Heaven pills. This alchemy technique was called pill boiling. There weren't many people who used this pill brewing technique anymore. Especially in the case of the Great Alchemy Competition, who would have the time to watch you brew pills? On the second day, Ning Cheng smelled the fragrance of the Heavenly Heaven pill in the pill furnace. Ning Cheng had refined the Heavenly Heaven pill before. Therefore, as soon as he smelled this pill fragrance, he knew that Si Chen Qiu Tian's success was imminent. Even Si Chen Qiu Tian felt excited at this moment. He didn't expect that his guess was right. The Grand Essence Realm's heaven and earth laws were incomplete, which caused the Heavenly Heaven pill to fail. At the beginning of the third day, Si Chen Qiu Tian sped up his pill technique, and the pill charm in the pill furnace surged. 12 white medicinal pills with a tinge of gray fell into a jade bottle on the side. The special grade Heavenly Heaven pill was milky white in color, but the Heavenly Heaven pill refined by Si Chen Qiu Tian had a tinge of gray in it. Although there wasn't a single special-grade medicinal pill, there were 5 high-grade medicinal pills, 4 middle-grade medicinal pills, and only 3 low-grade medicinal pills. One could say that Si Chin Chiu Tian's batch of medicinal pills was a great success. Congratulations to Association Master for successfully refining a batch of heavenly heaven pills. Ning Qing immediately stood up and congratulated him with cupped fists. Si Chin Chiu Tian excitedly took out a medicinal pill and looked at it for a while before putting the jade bottle in Ning Cheng's hand. Thank you, Ning Cheng. I'll keep one as a souvenir. Ning Cheng knew that Si Chin Chiu Tian didn't lack these heavenly heaven pills, not to mention that these medicinal pills didn't belong to him. Therefore, he didn't stand on ceremony. He put away the medicinal pills and said, Association Master, even without me, one day, Association Master would have successfully refined the heavenly heaven pill here. Si Chin Chiu Tian shook his head, no, if I didn't know you, even if I took out this batch of divine grasses, I wouldn't have been able to refine the heavenly heaven pill. Ning Cheng understood Si Chin Chiu Tian's meaning. Because Si Chin Chiu Tian's alchemy Dao heart was lacking, if he hadn't helped Si Chin Chiu Tian regain his confidence in the alchemy Dao. Even in the Great Change realm, Si Chin Chiu Tian might not have been able to refine such a batch of medicinal pills. The success of this batch of medicinal pills marked the complete disappearance of the pill devil in Si Chin Chiu Tian's heart. The shadow of failing to refine 51 batches of heavenly heaven pills finally faded away. Si Chin Chiu Tian regained his alchemy Dao heart, but Ning Qing didn't stay idle. He was constantly deducing the alchemy Dao. 10 days passed by in a flash. Ever since Ning Qing left Lu Fangzhen, he never bothered Ning Qing again. On the day of the pill competition, Ning Qing walked out of his room in high spirits. Si Chin Chiu Tian and the others were already waiting outside. Seeing Ning Qing come out, Si Chin Chiu Tian smiled and said, let's go to the alchemy Dao sect. Ning Qing nodded towards Qianqian and signaled her to follow Protector Zhu. He then asked, Association Master Si Chen, why is there someone missing? When Ning Qing came here, he didn't see Dou Jiangshi. Si Chin Chiu Tian's mood was completely different from when he came. After hearing Ning Cheng's words, he smiled, don't worry about it. He got separated as soon as he came here. I guess he couldn't participate in the pill competition. Ning Qing naturally didn't believe that a Dao transformation divine emperor would get separated. He also knew why Dou Jiangshi left. If Dou Jiangshi still had ideas about him before, then after he pointed out Dou Jiangshi's possession, Dou Jiangshi probably wouldn't dare to have any ideas about him. Later on, he became good friends with Si Chin Chiu Tian and Lu Dongzi. He even had a good relationship with Kong Lianbo. If Dou Jiangshi still thought he had a chance, then he would be an idiot. The only thing Dou Jiangshi could do now was to stay away and wait until he had the strength to come back in the future. Ning Qing didn't care about Dou Jiangshi's departure. He didn't fear Dou Jiangshi now, so he wouldn't fear this zombie in the future. The alchemy Dao sect wasn't a gate, but a public square. Anyone was welcome to watch the 5 realms pill competition. When Ning Qing and the others arrived at the alchemy Dao sect, millions of people had already gathered here. The alchemy Dao sect didn't have any spiritual consciousness shielding restrictions. Therefore, no matter how many people there were, they could clearly see everyone's performance in the 5 realms pill competition. At the top of the alchemy Dao sect, there was a tall and huge altar. Ning Qing guessed that this altar was for alchemists to participate in the competition. There were also rows of seats at the back of the huge altar, which were probably for the judges of the pill competition. As alchemists participating in the pill competition, Ning Qing and the others naturally had a special place to sit. But compared to the other major realms, the Grand Essence realm had the fewest people. Including Ning Qing and Qianqian, there were only 8 people. Si Chin Chiu Tian had just sat down with Ning Qing and the others when a dazzling figure landed on the giant altar in front of them. When Ning Qing saw this person, he felt a little puzzled because the person standing on the platform was just a teenager. On the surface, this teenager looked even younger than his age. However, Ning Cheng's heart immediately turned cold. Apart from ancestor Kong, whom he had saved in the past, and the old man from the mysterious crossing ancient clan, he couldn't see through this teenager's cultivation. The only thing he could feel was that this teenager's Dao charm was boundless and boundless. Chapter 1068. This youth, dressed in luxurious robes, didn't look like an expert. However, Ning Qing knew that this was a true expert. The youth stood on the giant altar and gave a pill master's salute to everyone on the Alchemy Dao public square. Thank you, the top pill masters of the 5 great realms, for coming here to participate in the 5 realms pill competition. I'm Mu Zuoxiao, the head of the Great Change Realms pill gathering and the initiator of the 5 realms pill competition. Mu Zuoxiao's words attracted a burst of cheers. He was young and handsome, had a high cultivation, and was the number 1 in the pill Dao. He was also the head of the pill gathering in the Great Change Realm. If there was a star here, then Mu Zuoxiao was undoubtedly one of the superstars of the Great Change Realm. In fact, every time Mu Zuoxiao appeared, it would attract a lot of cheers. Perhaps it wasn't to chase after a star, but Mu Zuoxiao's achievements were enough to convince anyone. This kind of cheers represented a kind of recognition, a kind of pursuit and yearning. Mu Zuoxiao smiled and spoke calmly. For this 5 realms pill competition, we are fortunate to have invited Luying Dao Court's pill minister Zhong Hongbai, Cloud Light Dao Court's pill minister Pu Lao, Jade Pure Dao Court's pill sage Chen Yingxin, Great Mystery Dao Court's pill sage Lian Mo, and Covering Space Dao Sect's left protector master Si Zhe. Apart from that, there are also the heads of the pill gathering from the 5 great realms and the various Dao Court city lords. With Mu Zuoxiao's words, a few figures landed on the judging panel. Si Chen Qiu Tian, who sat next to Ning Cheng, also stood up and walked to the judging panel. As the head of the pill gathering, Si Chen Qiu Tian was qualified to sit on the judging panel. Ning Cheng felt secretly shocked. He knew the strength of Lu Dongzi, Kong Lianbo, and the middle-aged scholar Lu Fangzhen, who was also a powerhouse. However, Mu Zuoxiao didn't even have the qualifications to say their names. Apart from the 5 great Dao courts and 3 great Dao sects, those who could be called out by Mu Zuoxiao definitely wouldn't be weak. Ning Qing soon realized that he wasn't wrong. Among those sitting on the judging panel, there were at least 7 or 8 people who weren't any weaker than mysterious fairy ancient clans Li Feng. However, Ning Qing also knew that the experts sitting on the judging panel of the 5 realms pill competition weren't the strongest in the entire Great Change Realm. In fact, they couldn't even rank in the top few. The reason why they were able to sit here, other than representing their respective forces, was that they were slightly more outstanding in terms of alchemy. The Grand Change Realm truly deserved to be a grand world with the most complete heaven and earth laws. Even the Grand Essence Realm couldn't compare to the Grand Change Realm in terms of strength. Many years have passed since the start of the 5 realms pill competition. Although some talented alchemists have emerged in my 5 grand realms over the years, to be honest, I have never found an alchemist that can truly surpass me. This is my sorrow, and also the sorrow of my 5 grand realms. When Mu Zuoxiao said this, the square seemed to be affected and the cheers quietened down. Ning Qing whispered to Qianqian beside him, "Qianqian, do you know what's going on?" Qianqian quickly explained, Senior Mu is the premier pill sage of the 5 grand realms. His attainment in the alchemy Dao has already reached the peak of the 5 grand realms. Even with Senior Mu's high attainment in the alchemy Dao, I heard that he lost to others. Senior Mu made a vow that if the 5 grand realms couldn't find an alchemist that could compete with him, he would never leave the 5 grand realms again. Because of this, Senior Mu decided to hold the 5 realms pill competition. As a result, the 5 realms pill competition has been held many times, but Senior Mu has never taken a fancy to an alchemist and brought him out to compete in the alchemy Dao. Everyone in the Grand Change Realm knows about this. Big Brother Ning, you're not from the Grand Change Realm, so it's normal that you don't know about it. Ning Qing felt secretly horrified. Lu Dongzi and Kong Lianbo's attainments in the alchemy Dao were top-notch. They had to be primordial chaos pill sages. Mu Zuoxiao's attainments in the alchemy Dao should have far surpassed Lu Dongzi and Kong Lianbo. If even Mu Zuoxiao's attainments in the alchemy Dao couldn't compare to the other party, then just how powerful was the other party's attainments in the alchemy Dao? Mu Zuoxiao continued in a low voice, originally, we planned to use the alchemy Dao to determine the winner of this pill competition. But after listening to the Grand Beginning Realm Pill Association's Association Master Lu Dongzi and the Grand Essence Realm's Alchemy Master Ning Cheng, I came up with a new idea. We will decide the winner of this pill competition in 3 rounds, and the first round will also be decided through identification. To prevent outstanding alchemists like Ning Cheng from not being able to recognize them, we won't use names to determine the winner this time. Instead, we'll use the functions of each alchemist to determine the winner. At this point, Mu Zuoxiao paused and glanced at the alchemists who were about to participate in the pill competition before continuing. Unlike before, this time, we don't need to directly identify divine grasses. Instead, we need to identify divine grasses or Dao fruit seeds. If you can't identify them in the first round, no matter how high your attainments in the alchemy Dao are, you will be directly eliminated. After listening to Mu Zuoxiao's words, the alchemists participating in the pill competition started talking about it in confusion. Some people had high attainments in the alchemy Dao, but because of their lack of knowledge and experience, they were eliminated. If they couldn't identify a rare divine grass seed, would they be directly eliminated? Would such a selection be fair? Ning Cheng also felt a little puzzled about this selection. If he hadn't seen the universe plants and vegetation, his knowledge and experience would have been the lowest. But Ning Cheng never thought that his attainments in the alchemy Dao were the lowest. His knowledge and experience were low because he had only been exposed to the alchemy Dao for a short time. He didn't have the opportunity to come into contact with a top-grade alchemy Dao divine scroll like the universe plants and vegetation. Mu Zuoxiao didn't change because of the discussions. He still spoke in a calm voice. The Dao of alchemy is also one of the grand Daos of heaven and earth. Many people here should know what the second spirit technique of the 10 grand spirit techniques in the vast universe is, right? That's right, the second spirit technique of the 10 grand spirit techniques is the grand fate spirit technique. We can also call it fate. If a cultivator in the Dao of alchemy doesn't have enough fate, then no matter how talented they are in the Dao of alchemy, their achievements would be limited. Cultivators like us cannot fathom fate. But there are indeed people who can surpass fate and control their fate in their own hands. So what if they can control each other's fate? My master once told me that if I meet a powerhouse who can control someone else's fate, I should run as far as I can. But in a world without a powerhouse who can control fate, the fate of alchemists would be controlled by the heavenly Dao. If you don't even have the fate to touch a top-grade alchemy Dao divine scroll, then how can you talk about reaching the peak of the Dao of alchemy? Ning Cheng initially didn't think much of it and felt that Mu Zuoxiao's questions were unfair to many people. But after listening to Mu Zuoxiao's words, he suddenly felt a chill down his spine. Even if he had the mysterious yellow bead, so what if he was powerful? If he met a powerhouse who could control a spirit technique like fate, he wouldn't even be considered as an ant. Mu Zuoxiao's words weren't wrong at all. Even if he didn't meet a powerhouse who could control fate, he couldn't control his own fate. The heavenly Dao controlled it. Cultivating until now, struggling until now, he was still just a small chess piece. Maybe he had an opportunity, maybe he met the mysterious yellow bead and almost perfected his mysterious yellow bead with luck. But this was all his fate. Once he used up all his fate, what would happen to him? Even if he still had his karmic luck, what could he do if he met an expert who could control fate and seize all of his karmic luck? Ning Cheng's mind no longer focused on the pill meat. The first time he heard that the second spirit technique was the grand fate spirit technique, his heart completely lost balance. No matter how strong the fate spirit technique is, it is not the first spirit technique in the primal chaos universe. The person who controls the fate spirit technique also walks step by step like us. Your fate is not in what you want to do, but in how you are prepared to do it. Pill Master Ning has amazing talent, why bother with a trivial fate? When you are ready to do it, your fate is already in your hands. A gentle and soft voice fell into Ning Cheng's ears. Ning Cheng felt as if he was suddenly enlightened and instantly sobered up. That's right, because he had the mysterious yellow bead, he worried about gains and losses. Didn't those who didn't have the mysterious yellow bead do what they wanted to do? One day in the future, he would also be able to control his fate. Ning Cheng's mind calmed down. Only then did he remember the person who helped him with his Tao heart. He subconsciously looked back. Then he saw Nian with a smile on her face. Nian sat behind him and nodded at him with a smile. Ning Cheng nodded at Nian gratefully. He didn't understand how Nian recognized him, but he didn't put up much of a guard against Nian. No longer worried about encountering a fate spirit technique powerhouse, Ning Cheng once again listened to Mu Zuoxiao's words. Although Mu Zuoxiao didn't say much, Ning Cheng still felt that Mu Zuoxiao was as vast and unfathomable as the sea. Now, the 5 Realms Pill competition officially begins. All participating alchemists, please come to the stage. Grand Change Realm Pill meets Deputy Association Head Kong Lianbo will set the questions and preside over this pill competition. After Mu Zuoxiao finished speaking, his figure flashed slightly, and he immediately sat in the middle of the judge's seat behind the giant altar. Ning Cheng stood up and walked up to the giant altar with the other participants from the Grand Essence Realm. After sitting down in the Grand Essence Realm's alchemists area on the giant altar, Ning Cheng discovered that more than 300 people participated in the first round of the 5 Realms Pill competition. Out of more than 300 people, the Grand Essence Realm only got 6 spots. One of them was won by him and Lu Dongzi in an alchemy duel. One had to say that this was the sorrow of the Grand Essence Realm's alchemists. In fact, on the giant altar, only 5 people sat in the Grand Essence Realm's area. Even compared to the Grand Ultimate Realm, it was still a pitiful number. Everyone had already gotten used to it. After all, the Grand Essence Realm always had the least number of participants in each pill competition. After the alchemists sat down, Kong Lianbo walked up to the giant altar and said in a clear voice, "The top 10 of this pill competition will be given the 5 Realms Pill Sage Identity Card, which will give you the qualification to open a cave in the Sacred Cloud Mountain." Ning Cheng didn't know the benefits of the 5 Realms Pill Sage Identity Card, nor did he know what it meant to open a cave in the Sacred Cloud Mountain. But the other alchemists knew about it. With the 5 Realms Pill Sage Identity Card, it meant that one could walk unhindered in the Grand Change Realm. Except for a few powerhouses, no one would dare to point fingers at you. For example, if Ning Cheng had the 5 Realms Pill Sage Identity Card, even if Lu Fangzhen had 10,000 times the courage, he wouldn't dare to order Ning Cheng. The Sacred Cloud Mountain was the Pill Meet's premier cultivation sacred land and one of the top 10 cultivation sacred lands in the Grand Change Realm. It wasn't much weaker than the Luying Dao Pavilion's Dao Crossing Pond. Opening a cave in the Sacred Cloud Mountain was the dream of every cultivator in the Grand Change Realm. Chapter 1069. In addition to the above rewards, the 3rd place will be rewarded with 2 high-grade God Spirit Veins and 10 Dao Essence Dao Fruits. The 2nd place will be rewarded with 5 high-grade God Spirit Veins, 10 Dao Essence Dao Fruits, and 1 Primordial Essence Dao Fruit. The 1st place will be rewarded with 10 high-grade God Spirit Veins, 10 Primordial Essence Dao Fruits, and 2 Primordial Essence Dao Fruits. In addition, the 1st place will be rewarded with a wood-attributed top-grade God Spirit Vein. Kong Lianbo's words made Ning Cheng secretly marvel at the wealth of this pill association. Sure enough, the 1st place would be rewarded with a wood-attributed God Spirit Vein, but it was just one of the many rewards. In fact, Kong Lianbo didn't say one more thing. In addition to the above rewards and glory, the 1st place might also get a chance to discuss alchemy with Mu Zuoxiao. After talking about the rewards, when everyone quieted down a little, Kong Lianbo continued, "Next, the 1st round of the pill competition, seed identification. The time limit is 1 day." After Kong Lianbo finished speaking, a transparent restriction rose around all the alchemists. The rise of this restriction meant that spiritual consciousness couldn't be released outside, nor could it penetrate inside. After the restriction rose, a longan-sized jet-black seed appeared on the transmission platform in front of Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng picked up the seed and saw a faint Dao charm circulating around the seed. It seemed to contain a Dao charm aura that could dissipate at any time. When Ning Qing saw this seed, he secretly felt that it was a close call because he recognized this seed. To be precise, he recognized this seed after reading about the universe vegetation. If not for Lu Dong's universe vegetation, Ning Qing felt sure that he would have been eliminated in the first round. For ordinary divine grasses, Ning Qing might have been able to deduce their effects in a day. This seed, even if Ning Cheng's mysterious yellow formless grew even more powerful, it would not be able to deduce the effects of the divine grasses that it would grow into in just one day. Not to mention one day, even if it took many years, Ning Qing estimated that he would not be able to do it. This was a Dao fruit seed. The name of this Dao fruit was a bit strange, called half-blooming epiphyllum. The Dao fruit produced by this seed not only contained the Dao charm of the 5 elements between heaven and earth, but it would also give rise to other law attributes such as the Dao charm of wind, thunder, ice, and other attributes. However, these law attributes were like short-lived epiphyllum and would disappear in a short time. To say that it was short-lived was an exaggeration. In fact, the law attributes only appeared for a short time. The ephemeral epiphyllum Dao fruit was a primordial Dao fruit and its only use was to refine the heaven and earth epiphyllum pill. The half-blooming epiphyllum wasn't the most precious Dao essence Dao pill, but it was definitely one of the most difficult Dao essence Dao pills to refine. The main role of this Dao pill was based on the user's perception at the time, which was somewhat similar to Ning Cheng's mysterious yellow formless. For example, when you consume it and you are trying to break through to Dao Essence Divine Emperor, this Dao pill can help you understand Dao Essence heaven and earth laws. Dao and essence to the Dao. To, and if it essence to Dao to the Dao, then to Dao to essence Dao into to. If you are trying to gain insight into some kind of divine ability while consuming the Dao pill, the Celestial Empyrean Flower pill can also enhance your understanding of that divine ability. It wasn't difficult to obtain the seed of the half-blooming epiphyllum, but it was extremely difficult to refine the heaven and earth ephemeris pill. Even if the half-blooming epiphyllum was preserved, it couldn't be used to refine the heaven and earth ephemeris pill. The main Dao fruit of the heaven and earth ephemeris pill was the half-blooming epiphyllum Dao fruit. To refine the heaven and earth ephemeris pill, one had to cultivate this Dao fruit on the spot. Then, the moment the Dao runes of the half-blooming epiphyllum disappeared, one had to send it into the cauldron to refine the heaven and earth ephemeris pill. From this, one could see the difficulty of refining this elixir. First, cultivating the half-blooming epiphyllum Dao fruit wasn't something ordinary people could do. Not only did one need to cultivate it with natural treasures, but one also needed to have an extremely experienced grasp of the heaven and earth law Dao runes. A slight mistake would cause the Dao fruit to wither. Second, refining the heaven and earth ephemeris pill was also very difficult. The half-blooming epiphyllum Dao fruit contained the Dao runes of the 5 elements. It could also produce the Dao runes of wind, thunder, ice, and other attributes when it matured. This required the alchemist to control the Dao fruit's Dao runes. Because of this, almost no one could refine the heaven and earth ephemeris pill with complete Dao fruit's Dao runes. The heaven and earth ephemeris pill that contained more than 2 Dao fruit's Dao runes was already considered a success. Even if most alchemists could cultivate the half-blooming epiphyllum Dao fruit, they couldn't refine the heaven and earth ephemeris pill. They couldn't grasp the moment when the Dao runes of the half-blooming epiphyllum Dao fruit dissipated. In other words, they couldn't grasp the Dao runes of the Dao fruit that were about to disappear. Ning Qing took out a jade strip and engraved everything he knew into it. He guessed that the second round of the competition would be about refining the heaven and earth ephemeris pill. A day passed by quickly, and Kong Lianbua appeared on the giant altar again. Alchemists, the first round of the competition has ended. Alchemists, please place your jade strips on the transmission platform in front of you and teleport to the judges' seats. Ning Qing placed his jade strip on the transmission platform. He was sure that he could pass the first round. The first round's evaluation wasn't subjective. Whether one understood it or not, one would know it just by looking at the jade strip. In less than an hour, the results came out. According to the alchemist's understanding of the half-blooming epiphyllum Dao fruit, Ning Qing scored 67 points out of 100, ranking him 46th. Ning Qing didn't feel surprised about this ranking because he didn't write down the cultivation method of the half-blooming epiphyllum Dao fruit or how to control it during alchemy. There were many cultivation methods for the half-blooming epiphyllum Dao. The reason why Ning Qing didn't write them down was that his method was a bit different. As for how to control it during alchemy, Ning Qing didn't write it down. His Tao of alchemy was different from others. He could get more points if he wrote it down, but if the judges were picky, they would say that his cultivation method was different from what was written on the jade strip. Although he had his reasons, he wasn't in the mood to explain these things. What's more, Ning Qing knew that the deciding round of this pill competition wouldn't be the first round, but the second and third rounds. A total of 52 alchemists successfully passed the first round, with the highest score being 98 points. Moreover, it wasn't just one alchemist, but 3 alchemists with 98 points. Ning Qing ranked 46th, which was a bit behind. A ranking appeared on the huge screen over the square. Only 52 people entered the second round. The elimination rate was a bit too high. Apart from Ning Qing, who entered the second round, there was another person from the Grand Essence realm, Lu Shizhen. Lu Shizhen not only entered the second round, but her score was even higher than Ning Cheng's, ranking 41st. Lu Dongzi frowned slightly when he saw Ning Cheng's ranking. According to Ning Cheng's question, Ning Cheng should have already seen the effects of the half-blooming epiphyllum Dao fruit. As long as Ning Cheng saw it, Ning Cheng would definitely enter the top 10. So why did he only score 67 points? The eliminated alchemists came down from the giant altar, leaving only 52 alchemists on the giant altar. Kong Lianbo spoke up again. The first round of the pill competition is over. Now, the second round of the pill competition will begin. A total of 52 alchemists will participate in the second round of the pill competition. The second round of the pill competition is for refining the heaven and earth ephemeral flower pill. Each alchemist will have a transmission platform in front of them. In addition to the half-blooming epiphyllum seed, if you need any divine grasses, you can engrave your needs on the jade strip beside the transmission platform. The second round of the pill competition will last for a month, and it starts now. Sure enough, to refine the heaven and earth ephemeral flower pill, one had to cultivate the half-blooming epiphyllum Dao fruit to refine this pill. Cultivating the half-blooming epiphyllum Dao fruit for a month was definitely a challenge. Ning Cheng had read about the Dao fruit of the ephemeral flower in the book, Interspatial Vegetation. According to it, the shortest time to cultivate the Dao fruit of the ephemeral flower was 1 month. Since this pill competition only required 1 month, it meant that this pill competition not only had high requirements for the Tao of alchemy, but it also required a high understanding of the laws of heaven and earth. The stronger one's understanding of the laws of heaven and earth, the stronger one's Tao charm would be. As for the half-blooming epiphyllum Dao fruit, the clearer the 5-element Dao charm, the faster it would mature. Ning Qing casually refined a simple clay pot with some soil and put it into the pot with some soil from the mysterious yellow bead. This competition only gave out a seed and nothing else, which indirectly showed that any alchemist could use their own methods to cultivate the half-blooming epiphyllum Dao fruit. Ning Qing then planted the half-blooming epiphyllum Dao fruit into the pot. Ning Qing then took out some water from the mysterious yellow bead and watered it. This time, cultivating the half-blooming epiphyllum Dao fruit depended on one's own spirit techniques. Even if you used the breath soil to cultivate it, it was still your own ability. Mu Zuoxiao had already made this point clear. One's own opportunities and luck were also a kind of ability. Just 3 days later, Ning Cheng's half-blooming epiphyllum seed sprouted. This pill competition was open to everyone. Although the place where Ning Cheng and the others stood had restrictions restricting spiritual consciousness, the cultivators watching from under the altar could clearly see everyone's every move while cultivating the Dao fruit. Ning Cheng's half-blooming epiphyllum seed germinated in 3 days. The first alchemist to cultivate the half-blooming epiphyllum seed took only 2.5 days to germinate. Ning Cheng's speed wasn't slow either. Among all the participating alchemists, his seed was the third to germinate. Because of the restrictions, the cultivators watching from outside couldn't see whose half-blooming epiphyllum seed's Dao charm was stronger. But considering that Ning Cheng only ranked 46th in the first round, coupled with Mu Zuoxiao mentioning Ning Cheng before the pill competition, many people's eyes still fell on Ning Cheng. After the half-blooming epiphyllum seed germinated, it was somewhat similar to the bestowing lawless fruit and required various laws of heaven and earth to cultivate. Unlike the bestowing lawless fruit, the half-blooming epiphyllum seed didn't devour the laws of heaven and earth. Instead, it grew under the influence of various laws of heaven and earth. Ning Cheng had the law-breaking spirit technique, and his understanding of the laws of heaven and earth wasn't weak. Therefore, at this time, he continued to infuse his understanding of the laws of the great Tao into the half-blooming epiphyllum seed. 10 days later, Ning Cheng felt the difference between him and the top alchemists. In just 10 days, his half-blooming epiphyllum seed had only grown a foot. However, the half-blooming epiphyllum seed would only bear fruit after a meter. In other words, by the time his half-blooming epiphyllum seed bore fruit, a month would have already passed. As for the powerful alchemists, the half-blooming epiphyllum seed's Tao fruit was almost a meter long. Chapter 1070. However, Ning Cheng calculated in his heart that if he wanted to cultivate the half-blooming epiphyllum, there was only one way, and that was to use the chaos qi of the 5 elements. However, the value of the 5 elemental chaos energy far exceeded the value of the 5 elemental chaos energy. Even if he obtained first place, the rewards would not necessarily be as valuable as the 5 elemental chaos energy. What's more, the fleeting epiphyllum cultivated with the 5 elements primal chaos qi would definitely contain a trace of primal chaos origin energy. Even if it was refined into a pill, experts would still be able to sense it. Seeing that the gains were not proportional to the effort, Ning Cheng immediately dispelled the idea of using the 5-element chaos qi. If he didn't use the 5-elemental chaos qi, he would have to use another method. Otherwise, he might not even be able to cultivate the epiphyllum Dao fruit after a month. Ning Cheng took out a dozen wood origin crystals and put them into the pot with the half-blooming epiphyllum. Although wood origin crystals were precious, they couldn't compare to the 5-elemental chaos qi. He happened to have quite a few of these things. Sure enough, after integrating the wood origin crystal, Ning Cheng's half-blooming epiphyllum grew much faster. Coupled with the integration of Ning Cheng's Dao charm laws, Ning Cheng's short-blooming epiphyllum finally grew to about 1 meter after 20 days. The epiphyllum had 5 leaves of different colors. When it grew to 1 meter, a 5-colored flower appeared on top of it. Under the nourishment of Ning Cheng's Dao charm of various attributes, the 5-colored flower became even more vibrant. The name of the half-blooming epiphyllum was reflected at this moment. This 5-colored flower only bloomed halfway. No matter how bright it was, it would not continue to bloom. At this moment, Ning Cheng didn't have the energy to watch other people's half-blooming epiphyllum. Since the half-blooming epiphyllum was about to bear fruit, he needed to have a better control over the attribute laws absorbed by the half-blooming epiphyllum. Ning Cheng focused 90% of his attention on the half-blooming epiphyllum. He had already prepared the auxiliary divine grasses for refining the heaven and earth epiphyllum pill a long time ago. Even if he didn't have a furnace, he had already taken it out. He was just waiting for the epiphyllum to bloom and the Dao fruit to ripen. He was ready to start refining pills at any time. As another 3 days passed by, Ning Cheng felt that something was wrong. His half-blooming epiphyllum seemed to have faded from its brightest color, and the half-blooming epiphyllum didn't even look like a Dao fruit. Ning Cheng's gaze swept out, only to find that a few pill masters' epiphyllum fruits were already the size of a child's fist. The other 2 alchemists had already started to concoct pills. No, there was something wrong with his cultivation. Ning Cheng once again recalled the words about the half-blooming epiphyllum in the universe's grasses and trees. The half-blooming epiphyllum absorbs the laws of heaven and earth, condenses the Dao charm, fuses yin and yang, and obtains the half-blooming epiphyllum fruit. Aside from adding the wood origin crystal, there shouldn't be any mistakes in the cultivation process. Ning Cheng suddenly thought of the fusion of yin and yang. Winter left and spring came, all living things revived, flowers bloomed all over the ground, bees and butterflies bustled about. Ning Cheng almost wanted to slap his own head. He had already neglected the fact that solitary Yin did not give birth to solitary Yang. It would have been a strange thing if he could cultivate a Dao fruit. For any flower to bear fruit, it needs bees to deliver pollen. Although this Dao fruit didn't require bees to deliver pollen, the principle behind it was the same. Ning Cheng immediately began to integrate the Dao charm of the 5 elemental attributes between heaven and earth into the half-formed flower. Sure enough, after Ning Cheng integrated the Dao charm of the 5 elemental attributes into the flower instantly blossomed and then condensed. In a short period of time, the flower had turned into a green fruit. Streams of Dao aura lingered on the surface of the green fruit, and the 5 different colored leaves growing on the half-blooming epiphyllum gradually withered and disappeared. In just one day, only a colorful Dao fruit remained at the top of the 1-meter-tall half-blooming epiphyllum. The Dao charm flowed within it, and a faint Dao charm fragrance wafted over. Ning Cheng took in a deep breath and raised his hand to bring out the nameless flame. The half-blooming epiphyllum Dao fruit was about to mature. He wanted to put this Dao fruit into the pill furnace the moment it matured and leave behind the Dao fruit's attribute Dao charm. Kacha, the 1-meter-tall half-blooming epiphyllum tree snapped, and the half-blooming epiphyllum fell from the sky. Ning Cheng didn't wait for the Dao fruit to fall to the ground. With a wave of his hand, the Dao fruit entered the furnace. At the same time, the nameless flame ignited under the furnace. The snowflake-like flame looked very beautiful inside the restrictions. The half-blooming epiphyllum Dao fruit began to melt, and the 5 elemental attribute laws changed again at this moment. It gave birth to the wind attribute, then to the thunder attribute, and then to the ice attribute. While Ning Cheng was in a daze, the time attribute and space attribute laws extended out. Ning Cheng grew anxious. The more law attributes appeared, the more difficult it would be for him to control them. He hurriedly threw the rest of the divine herbs into the pill furnace and quickly melted them. At the same time, he sent out a pill technique to wrap up the epiphyllum's half-revealed Dao fruit's attribute laws. Time passed slowly. At this point, all the pill refiners who were qualified to concoct the Heaven and Earth Dutchman pill were focused on concocting pills. Those who were incapable had already failed. An hour later, Ning Cheng directly threw out the dregs of his pill art and began to integrate the attribute laws of the epiphyllum's half-revealed Dao fruit. Ning Cheng had refined the 6 Yin Soul pill before, and during the process of refining the 6 Yin Soul pill, he finally understood the fit between the Dao of alchemy and his own Dao. He integrated the Dao of alchemy into the great Dao of coalescence, allowing his comprehension of the great Dao to reach a higher level. At the same time, his understanding of alchemy became more thorough. Now that he had fused with the nomological Dao runes of the epiphyllum flower's half-revealed Dao fruit, this kind of enlightenment was finally useful. Ning Cheng successfully integrated the 5 elemental nomological Dao runes into the Dao core. If it were an ordinary alchemist, the Heaven and Earth Dutchman who integrated the 5 elemental nomological Dao runes into the Heaven and Earth Dutchman pill would have already achieved great success. However, Ning Cheng didn't give up. His epiphyllum flower's half-revealed Dao fruit still contained the laws of wind, thunder, and ice. It even derived the laws of time and space. Unfortunately, Ning Cheng didn't have a thorough understanding of the laws of wind. Therefore, he made a mistake when he integrated the laws of wind into the Dao fruit. However, this didn't affect Ning Cheng's fusion of the laws of thunder and ice into the Dao core. Even so, Ning Cheng didn't give up. He once again integrated the Dao runes of the epiphyllum flower's half-revealed Dao fruit's Dao runes into the Dao core. Even if it was only a trace of the Dao runes, it was still a bargaining chip. Because of Ning Cheng's timely control over the half-appearing epiphyllum Dao fruit, the Dao fruit derived from the half-appearing epiphyllum Dao fruit, except for the wind-attributed Dao charm, almost all the other Dao charm laws were integrated into Ning Cheng's Dao core. The most important and difficult part of refining a Dao core was to integrate the Dao runes of the Dao fruit. The ephemeral epiphyllum Dao fruit was different from other Dao fruits. It was a Dao fruit that could infinitely expand nomological Dao runes. It was a Dao fruit that could infinitely expand the Dao runes of the Dao fruit's laws. The difference was that the Tao core that integrated more Tao runes of the Tao fruit's laws would have a higher value. Ning Cheng's furnace of Tao pills contained 9 Tao runes of the Tao fruit's laws. One could say that it was the pinnacle of the heaven and earth ephemeral flower pill. After a few days of integrating the 9 Tao runes into the Tao core, the next steps didn't pose any challenge to Ning Cheng. Another hour later, Ning Cheng raised his hand and put away the 12 Tao cores. After refining the furnace of heaven and earth ephemeral flower pills, Ning Cheng finally had time to look at the others. Ning Cheng was slightly surprised to find that he was almost at the back of the entire assessment altar. Apart from him, only 2 other people were still refining pills. Most of the alchemists sat quietly in their seats. Some people had jade bottles of Tao pills, while others didn't. Ning Cheng guessed that those without jade bottles were alchemists who had failed. Ning Cheng calmly put away all his things and sat in his seat, waiting for the end of the second round. Seeing that Ning Cheng finally managed to complete his alchemy before the 1-month deadline, the people who were familiar with Ning Cheng all felt relieved. Although Lu Dongzi didn't care that he lost to Ning Cheng, he would still feel a little embarrassed if Ning Cheng couldn't even complete the second round. That meant that he, Lu Dongzi, couldn't do it. As the last hour passed, Kong Lianbo landed on the giant altar and said in a clear voice, "The second round of the pill competition has ended. All alchemists, please stop refining pills." As soon as his words fell, one of the alchemists pulled out several pills from his furnace and put them into a jade bottle. At the same time, he stopped. Another alchemist was still refining pills when a cloud of smoke erupted from his furnace. Apparently, he had failed. Kong Lianbo saw that all the alchemists had stopped refining pills and nodded. As an alchemist, in addition to talent and luck, the most important thing is confidence. There are a total of 52 alchemists participating in the second round. Some alchemists succeeded in refining the heaven and earth ephemeral pill, while others failed. Whether they succeed or fail, it doesn't matter. What matters is whether our confidence in the Tao of alchemy is still there. No alchemist can only succeed in refining pills without failure. Therefore, in this round, in addition to competing in the Tao of alchemy, there is also a competition of confidence. Ning Cheng didn't know how Kong Lianbo would compete in confidence, but he agreed with Kong Lianbo's words. The reason why Si Chen Chiu Tian's Tao of alchemy had cracks was because he had lost his confidence. Therefore, in the second round, we won't let the judges directly evaluate the heaven and earth ephemeral pill refined by the alchemists. Instead, we will let the alchemists stand up and evaluate the Tao pills they refined. Even if you fail and don't refine a single pill, you can still stand up and say that you can enter the top 10, as long as your reason is recognized by all the judges. Hearing Kong Lianbo's words, Ning Cheng secretly thought that Kong Lianbo was trying to recommend himself. At that time, he didn't care. The heaven and earth ephemeral pill he refined was most likely to come in first. Even if it wasn't first, it wouldn't fall out of the top 3. Seeing that no one objected to his words, Kong Lianbo continued, "Now, let the judging begin. Alchemists, please evaluate the ranking of your Tao pills. If the Tao pill you refined is very good, but you don't dare to stand up and say anything, you will be directly eliminated." Ning Cheng understood that even if he refined the heaven and earth ephemeral pill that would definitely enter the top 3, if he didn't stand up and say anything, he would still be eliminated. Chapter 1071. A tall man stood up and bowed before saying loudly, "I am Primordial Tao Alchemy Saint Qin Zishu from the Great Beginning Realm. I am confident that I can enter the top 10 with my Heaven and Earth Dutchman's Tao pill." After Qin Zishu sat down, a red-robed man stood up. His voice was extremely coarse. "Grand Beginning Realm Tao Essence Alchemy Saint Tang Imo greets everyone. I am confident that I will be number 1 in this round of alchemy competition." Lu Dongzi nodded in satisfaction. In the entire primordial realm, Tang Imo was the strongest after his skill in alchemy. Tang Imo said that he was confident of getting first place in this round, which meant that his batch of Heaven and Earth Dutchman's pill was very successful. In fact, Lu Dongzi did not doubt Tang Mo's words. Even though he did not know how good Tang Mo's cauldron of Dao pills was, he had seen the epiphyllum Dao fruit that Tang Mo had cultivated. It was indeed one of the best. Ning Cheng also couldn't help but sigh. It was not that Tang Mo said that he was the first one to sigh, but the people who stood up all had higher cultivations than him. Qin Zishu was at the early stage primordial Dao, while Tang Mo was an early stage primordial chaos sacred emperor. I don't agree with alchemist Tang being number one. I'm a primordial Dao alchemy saint from the great beginning realm, Feng Shihao. I'm confident that I can get first place in this round. A skinny man with a pale face stood up and bowed in the manner of an alchemist. His tone was filled with great confidence. Tang Mo's expression was very ugly. He also knew the rules of this competition. Standing out to refute at this time would make him appear petty. Now, it was a competition of confidence, and the final result would be determined by the judges. If you won in the end, it would boost your confidence. If you lost, it would be a huge blow to your confidence. The Great Change Realm's mixed Yuan Pill Saint, Yu Guji, is the champion of this round, and the champion of this year's 5 Realms Pill competition. Another man stood up and said calmly. He was so calm as if he was talking about something that had already happened. This man looked delicate and handsome. His expression and eyes were very calm, without any hint of arrogance. However, his words were full of confidence. He didn't even say that he was confident. He directly said that he was the champion of this round. Before the third round had even begun, he had already announced that he was also the champion of the 5 Realms Pill competition. It was as if it was only right and proper for him to get first place. It would be strange if he didn't. Ning Cheng was a little speechless, there was simply no such thing as modesty. Should he also say that he was first? If that was the case, there would be 4 firsts. The Great Change Realm's primordial Dao alchemy saint, Fu Shouhao, is confident of advancing to the top 10 in this round. Primordial Dao alchemy saint Mo of the primordial beginning realm is confident of advancing to the top 10 in this round. Great Change Realm's Yunjiuli, the Great Ultimate Realm's Yixingnan. As more and more people stood up, Ning Cheng counted and found that the number of people had already exceeded 10. He couldn't help but sigh at the low level of the Grand Essence Realm's alchemy Dao. If he hadn't participated, no one would have stood up in the second round. Ning Cheng stood up at this time. Grand Essence Realm's Ning Cheng can advance to the top 3 in this round's pill competition. Originally Ning Cheng also wanted to say that he could get the first place, but after thinking about it, he decided to give up on this statement. None of the alchemists here were weak, and there were even primordial chaos alchemy saints. He knew that the Heaven and Earth Dutchman pill could only condense more than 10 types of elemental laws. He had only condensed 9 of them. Besides, this competition of confidence was definitely not the main factor that decided the outcome. As for who could get the first place, it all depended on the medicinal pill. If one talked big, it wouldn't be confidence, but bragging. Ning Cheng felt that this wasn't the best way to compete with Kong Lianbu's confidence. Real confidence in the alchemy Dao wasn't something that could be achieved with such confidence. Sure enough, when Ning Cheng said that he could advance to the top 3, it immediately attracted a lot of attention. Many people knew about the pill competition between Ning Cheng and Lu Dongzi, but not many people knew about Ning Cheng. What's more, Ning Cheng was from the Grand Essence Realm. The Grand Essence Realm's alchemy Dao was recognized as the worst. Since when did an alchemist from the Grand Essence Realm dare to say that he could enter the top 3? No way, when did an alchemist from the Grand Essence Realm have such strength? Advance to the top 3. Someone suddenly asked. It should be that Ning Cheng. Union Master Mu mentioned this alchemist before. He got the 46th place in the first round of the competition. 46th place in the first round, and now he's in the top 3 in the second round? I heard that he quibbled with Union Master Lu during the alchemy battle. He said that the Heavenly Fox double leaf scale was a dog's tail grass and finally won against Union Master Lu. It looks like he's going to have a war of words again. I'd like to see what kind of words he uses to turn a donkey into a horse and turn the 7th from the bottom into the 3rd. I feel sad for Feng Shihao from the Grand Beginning Realm and Tang Mo from the Grand Beginning Realm. The first place in this pill competition is undoubtedly our Grand Change Realm's Pill Seiju, and the first place in the second round is also undoubtedly Pill Seiju. When the results are revealed, Tang Mo and Feng Shihao's confidence in the alchemy Dao will take a hit. Hee, that's what I want to see. Coming from a boundary with incomplete laws and wanting to win the first place. If others said that they were the first, no one would stand up to talk about it. But Ning Qing just said that he could get into the top 3, and many people felt uncomfortable talking about it. Seeing that no one stood up to speak, Kong Lianbo landed on the giant altar and said, "The pill refiners who didn't stand up to speak, please step down from the altar." After saying this, Kong Lianbo paused for a moment. He waited for all the pill refiners to leave before he continued. There were 52 participants in the second round of the pill competition. In the end, there were only 12 who had the confidence to stay on stage. Since we only need the top 10 in the second round, there are still 2 people who need to be eliminated. Now, the 12 pill refiners, please put the medicinal pills you refined into the transmission platform and wait for the judges to rate them. Everyone sent the Dao pills they refined into the transmission platform. Ning Cheng also engraved his name on the jade bottle and sent it into the transmission platform. At this moment, everyone in the alchemy Dao sect, whether it was the public square, the judges' seats or the pill refiners waiting on the stage, all of them quietened down. Everyone was waiting for the results. After half a day, Kong Lianbo once again stood on the stage and spoke with a clear voice. After the various judges, the top 10 have come out. Now, I will announce the names. One could say that the pill refiners participating in the great competition were looking forward to the results. Even if it was Ning Cheng, he was also looking forward to how many places he could get. The only person who was not worried was probably Great Change Realm's Yu Guji. Perhaps in his opinion, no matter what Kong Lianbo announced, first place would still be his. Great Change Realm's CE scored 100 points. Great Beginning Realm's Mo Yen scored 105 points. The Heaven and Earth ephemeral pills they refined contained 2 Dao fruit attribute laws. Great Beginning Realm's Qin Zishu scored 200 points. Great Change Realm's Helanhao scored 210 points. The Heaven and Earth ephemeral pills they refined contained 3 Dao fruit attribute laws. Great Change Realm's Fu Shouhao scored 310 points. Yun Jiuli scored 315 points. The Heaven and Earth ephemeral pills they refined contained 4 Dao fruit attribute laws. Great Beginning Realm's Tang Mo scored 500 points. The Heaven and Earth ephemeral pills he refined contained 6 Dao fruit attribute laws. The above 7 people successfully advanced to the top 10. When Kong Lianbo reported this, Tang Mo's face turned a little pale. This batch of Heaven and Earth ephemeral pills could be said to have exceeded his usual standards. Not only did it integrate the 5 elemental Dao runes of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, but it also integrated the ice elemental Dao runes. He thought that the Heaven and Earth ephemeral pills with 6 elemental Dao runes would definitely be first. He didn't expect to only get into the top 10. According to Kong Lianbo, he should be in 4th place. The difference between 4th place and 1st place was not small. It was good to have confidence, but his confidence seemed to have inflated a little. At that moment, Tang Mo's confidence in the alchemy Dao suffered a blow. Even he didn't notice it. Not only did Tang Mo's expression turn ugly, but Great Beginning Realm's Feng Shihao's expression also turned a little ugly. He also felt that he would definitely get 1st place. Now that Tang Mo's Heaven and Earth ephemeral pill had only gotten 4th place, it meant that he definitely wouldn't get 1st place. This was because his Heaven and Earth ephemeral pill was only slightly better than Tang Mo's. He had integrated 7 types of Dao fruit attribute laws. Unless the other 2 people refined the same Dao pill as him, which also integrated 7 types of Dao fruit attribute laws, then they would compete on the quality of their Dao pills. As expected, Kong Lianbo continued. Great Beginning Realm's Feng Shihao scored 610 points. He refined the Heaven and Earth ephemeral pill that integrated 7 types of Dao fruit attribute laws and obtained 3rd place in the second round. At this point, Kang Lianbo paused and looked at Yuguji. Yuguji had been the calmest since the beginning. He wasn't pretending to be calm. He was really calm. He believed that among the 5 great realms, besides the Great Change Realm Elixir Association Master Mu Zuoxiao, no one else could be stronger than him in the alchemy Dao. Even if it was Mu Zuoxiao, he would surpass him sooner or later. At that moment, Kang Lianbo didn't announce first place. Instead, he looked at him. This made Yuguji's heart skip a beat. He had a bad feeling. Before Yuguji could think further, Kang Lianbo's voice sounded. Great Change Realms. Yuguji scored 760 points. He successfully integrated 8 types of Dao fruit attribute laws into the Heaven and Earth Ephemeral Pill and obtained second place in the second round. The spectating cultivators were already in an uproar. The second round of the pill competition had been too exciting. Someone had actually refined a Heaven and Earth Ephemeral Pill that integrated 6 types of Dao fruit attribute laws. However, this wasn't first place. It wasn't even in the top 3. Soon, Kang Lianbo announced that Alchemy Sage Feng Shihao and Alchemy Sage Yuguji had refined the Heaven and Earth Ephemeral Pill that integrated 7 and 8 types of Dao laws respectively. The value of this Heaven and Earth Ephemeral Pill had long surpassed that of the Primordial Dao Pill. It was a pill that was hard to find. However, the 2 people who had refined such a precious Heaven and Earth Ephemeral Pill weren't first place. How heaven-defying was the first place? When Kang Lianbo announced the second place, Yuguji suddenly stood up. From his clenched fists, one could tell that he was extremely uneasy. Chapter 1072. It wasn't just Yuguji who couldn't keep calm. Most people couldn't understand what was going on. Yuguji had refined the Heaven and Earth Ephemeral Pill that contained 8 elemental Dao runes without any mistakes. Yet, this Dao pill was ranked second. Who was first? Great Essence Realms Ning Qing scored 830 points. He refined the Heaven and Earth Ephemeral Pill that contained 9 elemental Dao runes and won first place in this round. Kang Lianbo nodded at Ning Cheng. He hadn't misjudged Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng's potential was amazing. Ning Cheng, a Dao Nourishment Divine Emperor, could take first place in this pill competition. It was already heaven-defying for a Dao Nourishment Divine Emperor to refine a primordial Dao pill, let alone first place. However, he wasn't too surprised. Ning Cheng could create a Dao Nourishment Divine Pills pill recipe in 6 days, which was an amazing thing in itself. If it were him, he wouldn't be able to do it either. How could an alchemy sage who could create a Dao Nourishment Divine Pills pill recipe in 6 days refine a Heaven and Earth Ephemeral Pill with 9 elemental Dao runes in this round be considered strange? As Kang Lianbo announced that Ning Cheng had won first place, the Alchemy Dao Sex Plaza quietened down, and everyone's eyes fell on Ning Cheng. After a few breaths, the frenzied discussions started. Very few people doubted Kang Lianbo's words. No matter how bold Kang Lianbo was, he wouldn't dare to cheat in this pill competition. Moreover, Kang Lianbo only had the right to announce it, not the right to judge. What did it mean to become famous in one breath? Ning Cheng became famous in one breath. No matter how Ning Cheng performed in the 3rd round of the pill competition, he had already become famous. Many people stared at Ning Cheng, thinking about how to build a relationship with him. What surprised them even more was that Ning Cheng only had a Dao Nourishment Divine Emperor cultivation. In the Great Change Realm, there were too many sects that could help a Dao Nourishment Divine Emperor advance to a higher level in a short time. As long as Ning Cheng needed it, countless people would want Ning Cheng to go to the best place in their sect to cultivate. Lu Fengzhen, who was sitting on the side, looked horrified. He knew that Ning Cheng's alchemy Dao should be good. For example, Ning Cheng had advanced 46th place in the first round. However, he didn't expect Ning Cheng's alchemy Dao to be so terrifying that he could obtain 830 points in the second round. Adding up the total score of the 2 rounds, Ning Cheng was without a doubt the first. No wonder this person was so confident. When she wanted to take Qianqian away, he dared to let her go. Whether he wanted to take away Qianqian or not, he had to change the relationship between the Luying Dao court and Ning Cheng. When he saw the Dao pill refined by Ning Cheng, Mu Zuoxiao, who sat in the judge's seat, stood up in excitement. Since the start of the Five Realms pill competition, this was the first time he had seen an alchemy Dao powerhouse like Ning Cheng. This was the kind of person he had been searching for. More importantly, Ning Cheng was only a Dao nourishment divine emperor. Once Ning Cheng advanced to the primordial essence sacred emperor stage, Ning Cheng's alchemy Dao would be immeasurable. Perhaps he had finally found a pill saint who could help him vent his anger. Fortunately, Mu Zuoxiao's excitement quickly calmed down, and he allowed Kong Lianbo to announce the result. Guild Master Kong, I'm not doubting Pill Master Ning's alchemy skills. It was because Alchemy Master Ning only had a Dao birth cultivation level. Even if he could barely refine primordial Dao pills, it would be very difficult for him to do so. Therefore, I would like to request that you take a look at Pill Master Ning's Heaven and Earth Dutch Flower Pill. Yu Guji finally calmed himself down and spoke to Kong Lianbo with cupped fists. Kong Lianbo said in a deep voice, if you want to see Pill Master Ning Cheng's Dao pill, you can. However, you need to seek Pill Master Ning's permission. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the right to see Pill Master Ning's Dao pill. Yu Guji knew the rules of the Five Realms pill competition, so he looked at Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng didn't wait for Yu Guji to speak and took the initiative to speak. Pill Master, you can naturally see the pills I refine. However, I also want to see Pill Master use Dao pill. Yu Guji said proudly, that's natural. This batch of Heaven and Earth Dutch Flower pills contains the Dao runes of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, and ice. There are 12 completed pills, 6 special grade pills, and 6 high grade pills. Ning Cheng didn't talk nonsense with Yu Guji. He had failed to integrate the ice-attributed Dao runes, so he wanted to see how Yu Guji's Dao pill integrated the ice-attributed Dao runes. After a few breaths, Ning Cheng obtained a Dao pill refined by Yu Guji. Before his spiritual consciousness could sweep in, he heard Yu Guji say, Association Master Kong, I don't want a special grade Dao pill. Just give me a Dao pill below the special grade. Kong Lianbo smiled slightly, I'm afraid that's not possible. Why? Yu Guji frowned. He wanted to find the flaws in Ning Cheng's medicinal pills, which meant that he couldn't use a special grade medicinal pill. Kong Lianbo said calmly, because the 12 medicinal pills refined by Pill Master Ning Cheng are all special grade. What? Yu Guji's heart shook. His alchemy Dao heart, which had always been full of confidence, suddenly had a gap. An alchemy sage with Dao birth cultivation had actually refined 12 Heaven and Earth Dutch flower pills that contained the Dao runes of 9 different attributes. This simply couldn't be described as heaven-defying. Yu Guji fell silent and didn't speak any more nonsense. Instead, his entire mind seeped into the Heaven and Earth Dutch flower pills in his hand. However, the next moment, he raised his head in shock and murmured, it actually fused the Dao runes of the spatial and time laws. How did you do it? If Ning Cheng had heard his words, he would have replied, this isn't the alchemy Dao, but my primordial transformation Dao. When I cultivated the half-appearing epiphyllum, I infused it with the laws of time and space. My primordial transformation Dao contains the alchemy Dao. Can your Dao do it? Ning Cheng looked at the medicinal pill in his hand and praised it. From this medicinal pill, he could tell that Yu Guji's alchemy Dao level wasn't any weaker than his. The Dao runes that were infused were extremely clear. Of course, this was also because Yu Guji had spent a lot of money to achieve it. If he was willing to spend that kind of money, he could also achieve this. He also understood why he had fused the Dao runes of 9 different attributes and refined special grade Dao pills. However, he had only scored 70 points more than Yu Guji instead of 100 points. After half an incense stick's worth of time, Kong Lianbo took back the 2 Dao pills and asked, Pill Master Yu, do you have anything else to say? Yu Guji sighed, Pill Master Ning can integrate the laws of time and space into the Heaven and Earth epiphyllum pill. Even if it's just a trace, it's still better than my Dao pills. Kong Lianbo nodded and looked at Ning Cheng, Pill Master Ning, what do you think? Ning Cheng replied honestly, when it comes to the Dao runes of the laws, I have one more than Pill Master Yu. But when it comes to the value of refining the Tao pills, my medicinal pills aren't as valuable as his. Ning Qing spoke the truth because Yu Guji was willing to spend a lot of money. This fellow actually had the 5-element chaos qi. Not only that, but he also used the 5-element chaos qi to cultivate the half-appearing epiphyllum Tao fruit. Because Ning Qing had the 5-element chaos qi, he could see this from Yu Guji's medicinal pills. He could also see that Yu Guji's 5-element chaos qi wasn't complete and only contained 2 or 3 of the 5 elements. Not bad, Pill Master Ning has a unique vision. The value of the medicinal pills refined by Pill Master Yu is indeed higher than the value of your medicinal pills. However, the level of your Tao pills has already surpassed Pill Master Yu. A very appreciative voice sounded. Everyone could see that the speaker was Mu Zuoxiao, the first person of the 5 realms pill competition. Ning Qing taking first place in this round was one thing, but what made Mu Zuoxiao look at him in a different light was Ning Cheng's shrewd vision. If Yu Guji had not swallowed the medicinal pills, some primordial chaos experts might not have been able to see that the half-appearing epiphyllum fruit in Yu Guji's medicinal pills was cultivated with the 5-element chaos qi. Sitting in a corner of the judging panel, Si Chen Chiu Tian still couldn't believe that Ning Cheng had taken first place in the second round. This was simply beyond his expectations. It wasn't until many people came to greet him and even Mu Zuoxiao took the initiative to speak to him that he truly understood that Ning Cheng had really taken first place in this round. At this moment, he was full of smiles as he exchanged greetings with the surrounding pill sages and experts from the great Tao courts. One had to know that in the past pill competitions, no one had paid attention to Si Chen Chiu Tian from the beginning to the end. He had come here just to go through the motions. Basically, he had been accompanying people from the start of the competition until the end. Lu Dongzi sat next to Si Chen Chiu Tian and laughed loudly as he said something to a city lord next to him. After laughing, he said, "Brother Su is overpraising me. After all, I lost to Pill Sage Ning. A loss is a loss. There's no reason to blame me." The sacred emperor, whom he addressed as Brother Su, said sternly, "With Pill Sage Ning's alchemy Tao standards, who would dare not lose? I guess only Brother Mu can say such words. Previously, I thought that Union Master Lu did not live up to his name. Now, it seems that I was just a frog in a well. I heard that Pill Sage Ning and Union Master Lu are brothers. I hope that Union Master Lu can introduce me to Pill Sage Ning after the competition." Lu Dongzi laughed again and said, "Well said, well said." Kong Lianbo waited for the noise inside and outside the venue to die down a little before continuing with a clear voice, "The 2 rounds of the 5 realms pill competition are over. Ning Cheng is temporarily ranked first, Yu Guji is temporarily ranked second, and Feng Shihao is temporarily ranked third. Now, we will proceed to the final round of this pill competition, the deciding round." Both the stage and the stage turned completely silent. After the second round of the pill competition, Ning Cheng had obtained first place. However, everyone knew that this first place was not safe at all. The gap of a few dozen points could be overtaken at any time. The deciding round is still about alchemy. This time, the Tao pill is the Heavenly Heaven pill. Kong Lianbo's words attracted a burst of discussion before he finished. In a top-notch pill competition like the 5 Realms pill competition, refining a Heavenly Heaven pill was not a joke, right? Even Ning Cheng was puzzled. The Heavenly Heaven pill was not a difficult pill to refine. One could even say that a primordial Tao pill sage could refine such a pill. If they were to compete in this kind of Tao pill, then everyone would be able to refine a batch of special grade pills. The third round would be too easy. Kong Lianbo still spoke up calmly, "The only difference is that this time, we will be refining the Heavenly Heaven pill in a new space. There are no laws in this space." Ning Qing froze. If it were any other medicinal pill, then it would have been fine. But he had studied the Heavenly Heaven pill before. Even he couldn't refine the Heavenly Heaven pill in the Grand Essence realm, where the laws were incomplete. Refining the Heavenly Heaven pill in a place without any laws, wasn't it just a joke? Did he really have to use the 5-element chaos qi? Moreover, this time's pill refining will depend on your own ability. You are not allowed to add any law aura that does not belong to the pill recipe. Kong Lianbuo's words directly dispelled Ning Cheng's thoughts. Chapter 1073. Ning Cheng saw that the other 9 pill masters had a puzzled look on their faces, as if they could not figure out why Kong Lianbuo had come up with such a topic, causing him to sigh with emotion in his heart. Looking at the expressions of these alchemists, it was clear that these alchemists in the top 10 all knew that the heavenly heaven pill couldn't be refined in a place with incomplete laws, but he still wanted to ask Si Chen Chiu Tian. Situ Chen's Chiu Tian, on the other hand, had failed 51 batches of heavenly pills in a row before barely reaching this conclusion. This was the gap between them. If he hadn't gotten the chance to look at the universe flora, would he have been able to get to where he was now? Now, I will place the divine herbs required to refine the heavenly heaven pill in front of you pill refiners. Pill refiners, please count the divine herbs required for the heavenly heaven pill. In a while, the pill competition altar's surroundings would be locked by a spatial magic treasure. All the alchemists on the pill competition platform will not be able to sense the aura of the laws of heaven and earth. After Kong Lianbuo finished speaking, he waved his hand, and piles of divine grasses appeared in front of the 10 alchemists. Ning Cheng estimated that he would lose miserably in this round. He helplessly looked at Sire Chen Chiu Tian. Sire Chen Chiu Tian gave him a nod as a sign of encouragement. Ning Cheng then looked at Qianqian. If he couldn't get the first place, then his status would not be as high as he had imagined. At that time, it would be much more difficult for him to help Qianqian. When Qianqian saw Ning Cheng looking at her, she also made an encouraging gesture. Ning Cheng nodded, and his eyes inadvertently fell on Nianyan's body. Nianyan suddenly shook her head at Ning Cheng, then closed her eyes and turned her head. Ning Cheng retracted his gaze and looked at the pile of divine grasses in front of him. What did Nianyan mean by this? Was he telling him not to worry? Ning Cheng also did not think much about it. He estimated that he would not be able to obtain the first position. Looking at the pile of divine grasses in front of him, Ning Cheng picked up the Heaven Essence Dao fruit and thought about how to refine this furnace of Heaven Essence heavenly pills. Even if he failed, he could still get some points for the process. When he picked up the Heaven Essence fruit, he found that there was a branch that emitted a faint light under the Heaven Essence fruit. It seemed that nothing could land on this branch. This branch was born to not be stained by dust. Is this a dustless branch? Ning Cheng put down the Heaven Essence fruit in shock and picked up the dustless branch. If he hadn't seen the plants in the universe, he wouldn't have known what a dustless branch was. But now, Ning Cheng had a very clear understanding of the dustless branch. Among this pile of divine herbs, the most precious one was neither the Heaven Essence fruit nor the Extreme Yin sacred fruit, but this dustless branch. Back when he and Lu Dongzi battled, Kong Lianbuo took out a divine herb called the Sakya flower. The Sakya flower was very precious because it was a non-elemental divine herb. The dustless branch was somewhat similar to the Sakya flower, but it was many times more precious than the Sakya flower. This was because not only did the dustless branch not have any attributes, but it also did not contain any laws. However, this was not the main point. The main point was that if he could obtain such a spiritual item, he could use his own Dao Rhyme aura to nurture the dustless branch again. This way, the dustless branch would have the elemental law Dao Rhyme that he needed. The Heavenly Qianyuan Pill's pill recipe originally didn't have the dustless branch. Could it be that the pill competition added the dustless branch to the Heavenly Qianyuan Pill's pill recipe so that pill refiners could cultivate the Heavenly Qianyuan Pill's laws of heaven and earth, and then add these laws of heaven and earth into the Heavenly Qianyuan Pill? That must be the case. Otherwise, how could the Heavenly Pill be refined? In other words, the first and second rounds of the competition had a purpose. The purpose of nurturing the half-blooming epiphyllum was to lay the foundation for the third round. If one couldn't even nurture the half-blooming epiphyllum, then participating in the third round would just be a waste of the dustless branch. Because nurturing the dustless branch was much more complicated than nurturing the half-blooming epiphyllum. The half-blooming epiphyllum only needed to nurture it with the laws of heaven and earth. However, the dustless branch could nurture divine grasses with different laws of heaven and earth according to the cultivator's Tao laws. Not only did it require the cultivator to integrate their own laws of heaven and earth, but it also required the cultivator to transform the laws of heaven and earth into the laws of heaven and earth. To put it simply, the dustless branch was like a blank piece of paper. You could draw the laws of heaven and earth that you needed according to the cultivation method. The dustless branch also had another characteristic, that is, it could store all kinds of laws of heaven and earth for a short time. So the third round was actually like this. Ning Qing felt slightly relieved. In his heart, he secretly admired the organizer's courage to take out so many dustless branch at once. With his ability, it would be a bit difficult to nurture the laws of heaven and earth that he needed with the dustless branch. This was because his cultivation was limited. However, the dustless branch gave him a new idea. He had refined the Heaven Essence Heavenly Pill before. As for why the Heaven Essence Heavenly Pill needed a place with complete laws of heaven and earth, he also understood. The primordial Tao realm and the Tao transformation realm were two completely different things. The Heaven Essence Heavenly Pill was a Tao pill that allowed Tao transformation holy emperors to comprehend the laws of primordial Tao realm. Therefore, it naturally had very low requirements for the laws of heaven and earth. He couldn't use the dustless branch to nurture the laws of heaven and earth that the Heaven Essence Heavenly Pill required. However, he could use the dustless branch as a medium and use his returning to one Tao to arrange a small space of laws of heaven and earth in his pill furnace. As long as this space contained all kinds of laws of heaven and earth, he could refine the Heaven Essence Heavenly Pill. For others, this might be several times more difficult than nurturing the dustless branch that contained the laws of heaven and earth. However, this was not the case for him. His mysterious yellow bead was a world with supreme laws. Since cultivating the mysterious yellow formless, his control over the laws of heaven and earth had far surpassed that of ordinary Tao confirming holy emperors. Because of this, he could comprehend the law-breaking spirit technique with half a bestowing lawless fruit. Furthermore, his sea of consciousness was strong enough to allow him to do this. With the refining plan in hand, Ning Qing felt much more at ease. He looked up and glanced around again. The alchemists participating in the third round of the pill competition all looked a little worried. Even if they knew the function of the dustless branch, it wouldn't be easy to use it. Soon, Ning Qing saw Nianyan shaking her head slightly at him from a distance under the altar. No, this wasn't to comfort him and not to worry. If she wanted to comfort him, she wouldn't shake her head at him twice in a row. Ning Qing admired Nianyan's strength and her carefree attitude towards cultivation. Although he hadn't been in contact with Nianyan for a long time, Nianyan's voice transmission had helped him walk out of a dead end. One could say that Nianyan's calmness and understanding of Tao intent had completely integrated into heaven and earth. Was Nianyan trying to persuade him not to participate in the third round? Yes, others could only cultivate the dustless branch and let it possess the laws of heaven and earth of the Heaven Essence Heavenly Pill to refine pills. However, he could use the dustless branch as a medium to arrange a space of laws of heaven and earth. What did this mean? It meant that his control over the laws of heaven and earth was far better than others. Why could he do this? Because of the mysterious yellow bead. Whether he guessed correctly or not, Ning Qing understood Nianyan's meaning. He didn't know how Nianyan could see that he was different from others, but he had to be careful. No matter how good the wood-attributed supreme-grade God Spirit vein and the primordial Tao fruit were, they weren't as good as his life. If there are no questions, I will seal off the pill competition altar. The third round of the pill competition will begin soon. The third round of the competition will last for 6 months. During this period, the Alchemy School will activate the Great Tao Perception Spirit Tao Array. Friends watching the pill competition can feel the Great Tao aura of the Alchemy School while watching the pill competition. Kong Lianbo said loudly on the pill competition altar. Kong Lianbo's words attracted a burst of cheers. Many people came here to participate in the pill competition with the purpose of activating the Spirit Tao Array in case the Alchemy School opened it. 6 months was not a long time for a cultivator. If one could feel the Great Tao aura under the Alchemy School's Spirit Tao Array, it would be a dream come true. The Alchemy School's Spirit Tao Array contained countless Alchemy Tao aura. Once the Spirit Tao array was activated, cultivators could not only feel their own Great Tao aura and Spirit Techniques Tao aura, but they could also feel other lore-related spirit techniques. Ning Qing stood up and cupped his fists. May I ask Association Master Kong, can I come out early after I fail in the third round? Kong Lianbo shook his head. No, you have to wait for all the alchemists to finish the competition before you can come out. Ning Qing made a sighing expression and said, I won't hide it from Association Master Kong. I once refined dozens of heavenly essence pills in a lawless space, but all of them failed without exception. Later, I also obtained a dustless branch, but I still failed. Therefore, I will definitely fail in the third round. Instead of wasting divine grasses, I might as well admit defeat in advance. After saying that, Ning Qing cupped his fists towards Kong Lianbo again and left the pill competition altar. Kong Lianbo didn't expect Ning Qing to withdraw from the third round. Not only did Kong Lianbo not expect it, but the other alchemists and the audience also didn't expect it. Although Sichin Chiu Tian knew that Ning Qing had never refined dozens of heavenly essence pills, he didn't say anything and just showed a regretful expression. Mu Zuoxiao, who initiated the pill competition, frowned slightly. He was optimistic about Ning Qing, but his only regret was that Ning Qing's cultivation was too low. The third question was indeed a bit difficult for him, so it wasn't difficult for him to understand Ning Qing's withdrawal. Unfortunately, the third question wasn't set by him, but by his master. At that time, his master once said that if someone could refine a heaven and earth ephemeral pill that surpassed the 8 elemental laws, then he would set the question of refining the heavenly essence pill in lawless space. If not, then he would set the previous question. But now, someone managed to refine a heaven and earth ephemeral pill with 9 elemental laws. However, the alchemist didn't participate in the third round at all. In fact, asking a Tao Nourishment Sacred Emperor to cultivate a dustless branch that contained the laws of heaven and earth was a bit too much. Mu Zuoxiao sighed. If he wanted to withdraw, then so be it. He would have to have a good chat with Ning Qing later. Seeing Kong Lianbo look over, Mu Zuoxiao nodded and said, Alchemist Ning Qing has withdrawn. The competition will continue. Seeing that Kong Lianbo didn't stop him from withdrawing, Ning Qing felt slightly relieved. It was better not to participate in such a purposeful pill competition. Fortunately, Nian Yan reminded him. Without Nian Yan, he would have definitely participated in the third round of refining the heavenly essence pill. He might have even succeeded in the end. Ning Qing had just sat down when Nian Yan's voice transmission rang in his ear, I'll be leaving first. If you have time, you can leave in an hour and then go to Shallow Cloud Manor. Ning Qing didn't send a voice transmission back. He decided to believe in Nian Yan. In any case, Nian Yan didn't seem like the kind of person who would scheme against others.